Welcome back to HGC Eastern Clash. I am the host of the day, Anna Lee. Hello， 欢迎大家呢继续回到我们暴雪英霸亚太对决第2天比赛的现场。哇，今天的一开场的时候呢，我是被那个英雄们围绕，现在我竟然跟英雄们平起平坐。哎，不好意思，这是只有来到我们暴雪电竞馆才有可能的这个，算是一个优惠的一个概念啦。 所以呢，欢迎大家呢可以来现场呢帮我们的所有选手来加油。那现在呢，我们刚刚第1场比赛已经结束了，是由这个 KSD Black 获胜。而紧接着第2场，接下来要开始的赛事呢，是由 Team BlossoM 对上 Ballisitx。那2队呢都是来自于韩国的战区。那一个呢可以说是这个老牌战队，另外一边呢可以说是超级新星。而且昨天那个 Ballisitx 打出一个那冲脸阵容，10分钟就结束比赛了。 哎，但是今天呢，这个 Team BlossoM 也不是一个省油的灯，到底会是鹿死谁手呢？请大家一定要期待到最后一刻啦。好 ，It is very impressive that Ballisitx picked a melee comp to end the game within just 10 minutes yesterday. So let's welcome them to the stage and have a game. But actually, you will never be sure who's gonna to win this game until the last moment. So let's hand off our stage to our casters. 好的，接下来比赛马上就要开始了，现在就把我们的画面交给主播赛评。
KSD able to get the standings upset over Tempest in the last series, and now we got to see whether or not, you know, between Ballisitx and BlossoM, if we'll still see the upsets continue. I am Dreadnought. With me is going to be Kendrick, and we have Jayhow here. Guys, with this series, thoughts, you know, immediate thoughts going into it, or do you guys want to talk about the last one? Any feelings after what we experienced? Because that was a whole new version of KSV.
I'm just very excited to get into this next series because Ballisitx has been my favorite Korean team in quite some time now. I mean, I did give it to Tempest at the start of this tournament, but I think Ballisitx, as you guys said before as well, they're just a team that seems to figure out the meta really, really well and very early compared to the other teams as well, and they're so consistent. Can they keep it up against BlossoM? If you think back to the matchup against BlossoM that they had in the league in the normal HGC phase, I think they're the clear favorite in this one.
Well, I think right now, because we've seen so much team fight-oriented play from the Korean teams, and of course China coming in having that same structure, the gameplay changes have created a new dynamic to the way maps are played, and a lot of people are going back to their old primitive ways of, hey, what if we just team fight? And I think Ballisitx still has a few of their old tricks. They were known as one of the best macro teams that we had, so I think that they do have an inherent advantage over a lot of their opponents, despite some of their own roster changes with Soy retiring and things like that. They still find themselves very heavily on the macro side of things.
I very much agree with you when it comes to the kind of the, you know, old tricks of Ballisitx and displaying it in their play, and I think it was not only within the region, but also within the games we saw from them yesterday. And so the fact that BlossoM is willing to take us to Dragonshire, I think, is a very interesting choice, not because of BlossoM's own confidence on the map, but more so because Ballisitx and that strength, this is still one of the few maps that macro decisions are holding a lot of weight, right? And Ballisitx, I feel like, has shown that they're going to be very, very dominant in that avenue. And so it's, I feel like already, I don't want to say it's a setback because BlossoM is confident on Dragonshire, obviously taking us to it.
I got a little bit of a theory, especially after our conversation yesterday. I think the whiz factor comes into play.
Okay.
Generally, when we look at the solo laner or that kind of secondary melee that we see, it's generally like, look, take care of the lane, come in when we need you. But Wiz is one of the more involved in when it comes to that. He plays more melee assassins than some of the other ones. He has a very high kill participation from that role. And I think Dragonshire kind of lends to, all right, look, if things do get a little bit crazy, yes, the solo lane can get very lonely and boring, but it's a small enough map to where I feel like he can be involved in a lot of what BlossoM likes to do using his role.
Yeah, and Wiz is a player that we have to point out here because whenever he feels like his moment, it's his moment to shine, that's when drafts get interesting. I remember like it was yesterday when they busted out that Illidan, Tassadar, Lucio composition, and they almost beat Ballisitx in the regular season with it. And Wolf and G-Cliff were very surprised to see that. And it always seems to me like when you play against a stronger team and Wiz has that moment of like, how can we surprise them, how we can turn the odds against them, that's when they truly shine.
And we've been talking about drafting and moments to shine on the side of BlossoM, and so I got to kind of shift that over to Ballisitx, if you will. Mainly when looking towards SC. That is a hero pool that has been something we have been questioning if it's going to be punished. Do you guys think that this is the series and a team that's going to threaten that? If so, do you think it's big enough that you think BlossoM can take it? Just general concerns here, because I mean, it's pretty much been SC on 4 heroes, right? And yesterday, it was still the story here. Yeah. We thought that Tempest might be threatened on the hero pools of the last series. The answer was they quite actually were pushed pretty hard by KSV.
I think if they are going to punish that, then they need to be aggressive with that. And I think a lot of it might end up coming back to the whole whiz factor. And I think that when we look at the current hero pool for ranged assassins right now, some of them tend to be a little bit on the squishier side. Greymane, not so much, but he hasn't necessarily been too much on that Greymane. It's more only been kind of a mixed bag of things. And I think that if he does go that route, it's a safe route. But SC has been around so long mechanically, one of the most skilled players in the entire world, no matter what, has always been mechanically skilled. We'll see.
However, we heard yesterday in the interview, SC was not happy with his own performance when he had that Hanzo hiccup on Towers of Doom where he got caught in the bottom lane for no apparent reason. He was basically saying that it almost cost them a game after all. And I really want to see if we see the old SCSC that can dominate and single-handedly win a game, or if he's still going to be a little shaky.
I agree with you. You know, every time we see him on that Hanzo, it feels like he brings out, I said it before, like the protractor, then you can see the numbers shifting in front of him. Like the guy is on a next level with how often he hits a scattering area where you're like, that's going to be one. And it's like, nope, it's about 3 to 4, bouncing off double wall. Like it just is ridiculous what he can make happen. But then I feel like that automatically shifts some of the priority. You talked about Greymane kind of dying down a little bit, especially within this tournament. The Volo and such that we see out of SC, I mean, let's be real here, she's kind of dead within this meta, even Eastern and Western metas outside of the double support outlier, which, by the way, Dragonshire, this is something we might have to be considering, though it hasn't shown up yet. But it's just with that, does the Uther gain higher priority now? Because the Hanzo does seem to be crippled if he doesn't have that invulnerability. We saw Tempest so concerned with invulnerability with consistent Tyrael bans. What do you think, Kendrick?
I think we saw a touch of Europe coming in that last year as well in Towers of Doom, right? With Stukov making it in. But Stukov is still, in the Eastern scene at least, still a support that can't be picked all day, every day. It still requires a certain setup. We saw the
Unless you're Shad.
Unless you're Shad, yeah.
Exactly. In the Eastern scene, like Shad brings it up every single time he wants to. He's like, team, are you fine with Stukov? And his teammates are like, dude, do it, please. But in Asia, in China, in Korea, it's still a niche pick. So I think right now, the support meta is a little stale, isn't it? Yesterday we saw Seed trying out the Alex Strauss. That didn't really work out. Uther and Malfurion, those two seem to be the go-to.
And Uther, I think, in particular, in Korea, has been like...
China, too.
And Rhaegar, China, and we looked at the Eastern region, they were kind of the ones, like, Uther was kind of there when we looked at the Western regions, but in Korea, it was a very dominant, and you bring up the Malfurion. The Uther, Malfurion, the two top supports when we look at it globally between our 3 major league regions, and of course China coming in with a little bit of their own, but the Rhaegar in particular as well was probably more surprising to me when I looked at the Korean region. So I think the Uther, Rhaegar, Malfurion will be very prominent here. And that, to me, I feel they each have different counters. And that will be one of the things that we'll keep an eye on.
We're going to be keeping an eye on it. But first, we have a bit of a technical issue that we're getting solved. So we're going to go to a commercial break. Stick with us, because when we come back, we are going to have Ballisitx taking on BlossoM on Dragonshire. just gone for a quick minute here. We got everything figured out, and we are ready to get things set up for BlossoM Ballisitx. We know the map is going to be Dragonshire, Cursed Hollow, and Braxis Holdout were banned out. Not too crazy of map bans for either one of these teams. We talked about a lot of the hero pools, a lot of the concerns going into it. What about when looking specifically towards this map? Actually, as we actually have the draft ready to kick off, let's just get right into it.
Yeah, let's get right into it. I think it was Dragonshire, if I'm not mistaken. And Dragonshire is always one of those interesting battlegrounds where oftentimes the quote-unquote underdog team, if they are confident enough to play on this battleground, if they have strong enough rotations, they can actually compensate all those team fight drawbacks and disadvantages that they might suffer from. And Maiev doesn't really surprise me here. No chances taken, no risks once that hero goes through, normally causing a lot of chaos.
You know, we saw the Tracer factor in our last series, but Tracer for these teams doesn't necessarily stand out for either of them, especially Ballisitx. They just flat out kind of avoid that hero, and BlossoM hasn't necessarily played a lot of it either. So I think we're going to get a little bit of a different style of drafts when it comes to this, and we had talked about that a little bit, but the Tracer factor I think has been kind of the standout when we looked at the Western Clash, and here coming to the Eastern Clash has been there. So we'll see if that springs up, and if it does, I wouldn't be terribly surprised in the manner of its Tracer, but I would be a little bit surprised based on the teams.
The thing is, we haven't really had this moment where we're like truly enlightened of what works very, very well against the Tracer. That's the cool thing about it. Like normally we have these antagonists like a couple of months ago when the infamous Li Ming Anubarak antagonism really came to place, right? But up to this point, it still remains to be seen like which hero turns out to be the ultimate Tracer shutdown. My Bovarian, still waiting for him.
Ooh.
Still waiting for it.
One thing I want to pose with this composition, I say composition, but it's only interior, is number one, it enables a lot of the Hanzo concerns we were already talking about. Dragonshire is a map that really plays into that pick and that rotations from them, but also he accents a very unique playstyle in Dragonshire with this kind of disengage, depending on if you want to have a mage kind of disassembling composition with an anti-siege and running a 1-3-1. Dignitas did it actually at the Western Clash very efficiently with a Chrome Ethereal within the 4-man, and it does pretty well into a Tracer. It's going to be not something I expect them to, but I feel like because we haven't seen much material be let through some of these drafts, it's something that I would not be surprised if Ballisitx manipulated into after having this Malfurion Tracer, which I think is pretty expected, except again, these teams don't play the Tracer. This is them kind of committing to objective meta rather than what they know.
Well, what Ballisitx does know is Uther, and I would be really surprised if that doesn't make it through here. And if you do want to go into that squishier backline with the Hanzo to give that to SC, Uther can protect that a little bit better than basically every other support by providing that armor. So if they go Uther Hanzo here, I wouldn't be terribly surprised, but the fact that they haven't committed to it this quickly, I imagine they've got other things in their mind to pair with the Uther.
Yeah, and that is pretty much the response here coming in immediately from Ballisitx. As much protection, as much disengage as you could possibly find here. We could go for double invulnerability, Divine Shield, Sanctification, and the bunker on top of that, the icing on the cake.
I mean, those three heroes together straight up build the safest composition you can ever think of. Double invulnerability, AoE, double disengage, triple disengage heroics, depending on how you want to use the Divine Shield. Like, it's just crazy to think about what they provide.
And if you think about it, depending on how the game goes, depending on what your playstyle and what your goals are for the draft, you could even throw in a Divine Storm against the Tracer there.
Yeah, we actually saw some of that flexibility out of China yesterday, and it was, I mean, very well done with the double Anubarak stun lock. Really kind of set those teams back. BlossoM hovering over the Hanzo, I feel like that's not surprising.
Well, if they're going to ban out the Hanzo, I wonder if they'll go down the Tracer Greymane route to take the Greymane away from SC, which would do well into that composition of Ballisitx. There's just... The Hanzo, again, does do really well. Hanzo does well against Tracer, you know, just kind of poking, and when you've got that much protection, it's super difficult to get the takedown. So BlossoM is going to need a lot more. Wave clear, I mean, I'm just looking down the list here. Garrosh, I was going to say, the Garrosh factor with BlossoM is very prevalent.
But then they have, that was a really good band as well, because into the Blaze you can consider the opportunity for the Maltho matchup, and it's like, well, then you have the Garrosh too, you deny any risk or fear. But that being said, also looking at Ballisitx comp, I don't know if they had to ban that out or give that much concern towards it, because they already have quite a bit of melees committing any more to that would be high risk, high reward. I can't help but agree with you. We see the Mouth Tracer. It's going to struggle into the raw survivability. I feel like I laid it out pretty clearly on how hard and beefy each one of those characters Ballisitx has. And I can't help but feel like it's got to be something weird, a little bit more like Chromie-esque, more considering of denying any kind of siege and slow play. For BlossoM, they commit to a Junkrat ETC.
Wow. And ETC was the hero I wanted to talk about at the very instance, because isn't it strange how what used to be the most contested warrior for a long period of time has now kind of drifted off into a secondary pick, maybe if Garrosh isn't available anymore, maybe something like Turret is already banned out or picked away. So ETC coming in hot here once again for BlossoM, and if you think about it, there's always this playmaking capability still available. However, Stage Staff actually has performed pretty well in this tournament up to this point.
So Tychus and Greymane are two very, very prominent heroes in Ballisitx hero pool.
Yeah.
Any reason why you wouldn't go down that route? I mean, they both do well against Tracer.
Yeah.
They both do well against ETC.
I would like, in this case, I feel like more of the Greymane, unless you have concerns with the Mosh Pit threat, which could come out.
Wow.
Instead, it's the double support Vala play here. They are going to bring it out. I said it, on Dragonshire, it's one of the few maps that we see teams willing to play it.
They've run this before. SD ran the Ariel before. And Vala, of course, SC, if you go back to last year, when Vala in the double support meta, SC does things that almost nobody else can do on Vala. And when you have this amount of protection, it is super scary. So I would have liked maybe a little bit more standard, but given that it's Ballisitx, given that it's SC on this hero, I'm cool with it. I don't know where we stand yet since the support nerfs.
That is so interesting. That's going to be our second game of Vala SCSC in 2018. They didn't really do so well the last time. Lost with it, unfortunately. But can they redeem themselves? Can they bring back the double support and establish it? As Dredd said, Dragonshire might be the perfect fit for it.
Yeah, and I tried to talk about it a little bit. I feel like the Leoric pick is probably the most optimal left here for BlossoM. I feel like out of all the picks we saw in the draft outside of the Malfurion Tracer, very well thought out in that position. I feel like in this case, with the Junkrat synergy, and more so, they have to give a lot of control on the map. They are going to struggle with the 4, with the double support, the control on the map that it provides. We're going to go ahead and bust out these predictions really quick. I know I'm feeling in the Ballisitx ballpark. They performed amazing yesterday. Have a hard time kind of doubting them here today, especially after that draft.
Main support, mains unite, Dredd. You know, I'm feeling it. I feel like Auriel Uther is here to make a stand, and I think Ballisitx, with the help of SCSC on that hyper carry, is going to make it work.
I think that they will struggle a bit around this, but depending on how, I guess, comfortable they feel, how well practiced they are, allowing SC that room to work, my choice is for Ballisitx just due to strength all around, so seems good.
Seems like people at home feel a bit of the same here. I just want to bring to light, before this game happens, there's going to be a lot of focus around the Knight camps and pressuring towards that, and the Giant camps and stacking those. If BlossoM struggles with the Giant control on the bottom half of the map because they get distracted by the Knight play that I can expect out of Ballisitx, this might not be the longest Dragonshire game we felt in the world. I can't help but kind of lay that out beforehand, because this is a very unique approach that Ballisitx has displayed, but BlossoM might kind of panic. Either way, we have game number 1 ready. Guys, take it away.
All right, it'll be a pleasure, because if I recall correctly, JL, this is our very first cruise together on this Eastern Clash. Actually, in our casting history together, isn't it?
Hey, we've shared a lot of desk time together.
Oh, we've shared a lot of room time, you know?
Yeah, I mean, partied a little bit together, you know.
Not too hard, though.
Oh, definitely not. Too old for that.
5, 4.
Either way, we've got ourselves BlossoM versus Ballisitx, teams very familiar with each other, and we also have a pause right away as we get started here. We'll take a moment as this gets squared away.
They just want to tease us a little bit more.
The thing is if SC goes down at any moment in the 4-man, if there's a pick, if there's a timely pulse bomb, if there's something that doesn't play out, the wheels fall off at that point. It's just like you get a flat tire, you got to pull over to the side of the road, wait for, you know, the tow truck to come around, change that tire, and that tire is basically SC respawning. I think that if you lose that element, even the Ariel element of that, you lose so much control in terms of aggression. When you're double support, you can be aggressive. You can get away with a few things that you can't get away with otherwise. And I think that if any part of those fall off, you just kind of just got to pull back just a little bit.
Yeah, and you mentioned Junkrat here, Rip Tire plays potentially. I think, especially if you watch the last series between KSV Black and Tempest, resets Junkrat oftentimes was the game-deciding factor. And Junkrat against double support can do so much, whether it's blowing some of the supports across a wall, leaving them unable to support SCSC anymore in the Vala, whether it's waiting for that Riptire moment until the Crystal Aegis is done, until the Divine Shield is over. There are so many plays that you can make happen, so I'm really excited to see how much mayhem Junkrat can bring into this game.
He's going to need to create quite a bit of it, and the rotations, I think, that are going to be particularly interesting to watch are between that mid and bot lane. And I think that when you look at the composition-wise, if you're going to make that rotation, if you're on the side of Ballisitx, you have to do that as a team. If you're on the side of BlossoM, you don't necessarily have to make that as a team. You can kind of split up just a little bit. They also have the kill potential with the ETC there. If they can find somebody to get the concussion mine, to get the displacement, and try and take control of those rotations. So if I'm on the side of BlossoM, they're known for being a team that likes to team fight, like to get a lot of kills. So if they're going to do that, I think they're going to have to control the early rotations, especially around the camps that Dreadnought was alluding to.
I think the game is ready now for you guys, so you will have to wait no longer. It is Team BlossoM here against Ballisitx Gaming as well in game number 1 here of this best of 5 set at the Eastern Clash. And the teams are getting ready. Everything is looking good, looking fine. And I'm just going to take this moment to appreciate a nice minion block if I see one.
Yeah, I mean, if you are threatened and you don't want to step too far out into the lane, you just simply fall back and make sure. Pumped up quite a bit there.
Yeah, sorry.
The Leoric swings are just like
Leoric
terrifying.
is just pounding it left and right with that mace. That was very loud for our headsets here, so we apologize. Anyways, we see the infamous 4-man rotation here. That is definitely what Ballisitx is going to try and keep up here. ETC trying to interrupt a little bit. Gets stunned against the wall, though, by Auriel.
Gets stunned indeed. And again, it's up to controlling the rotations, I think, for BlossoM. And a lot of it happens here between the mid and bottom lane. You can see the positioning was indeed there.
Yeah. So,
but there's just not enough cumulatively yet to punish them.
Absolutely, and we see what Dread mentioned before. That Siege Giant pressure is going to be real. However, they can't really fully commit to it because Hooligan had to take quite a beating here. Gondor now, on the other hand, also being dropped and chipped very, very low here. It really seems to me that Ballisitx is now trying to use, take a little bit of a breather and just try to get that mercenary camp on the way. Now, is BlossoM going to try to intercept, interfere, or are they just going to take value somewhere else on the map? We see Leoric already posturing up here to get Shrine control. Both Shrines are actually going to fall into the hands of BlossoM for now, but Uther's already well meting it up here, trying to keep Tracer in check. Stuns it up, but now he's going to get pressured.
He's going to get pressured. The roots, the raw roots will land. And this is something that when you're running this composition, you know, the armor is going to be there. You don't necessarily have the double assassin follow-up to kind of get that burst potential, and that's something where double support will do really well against. And, you know, we might even see a little bit of a change-up. We've got the cleanse, the hand of protection from Uther, but you've also got the Guardian of the Ancient Kings for stuns and roots like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't even mind seeing the Guardian of the Ancient Kings. Actually, a lot of pro players hold that thought here. Auriel goes down. That is first blood against Ballisitx, and BlossoM takes a little bit of a retaliation blow here as well. They lose ETC in the process, but the thought I was trying to make, J.O., is a lot of pro players. I remember last year I talked to Bakery about this. They were like, you know, Guardian of the Ancient Kings is actually the better talent in most cases because it's so reliable. You're not dependent on cooldown. You can't miss it as long as your timing is perfect against those Malfroots, against the ETC stunts, which are very predictable abilities at times. Then you're definitely going to get massive protection value.
See how that goes. Auriel went down in that team fight. The wheels did not fall entirely off as SC had enough pressure in return. So we had our first trade of the game, and it didn't really show which side had the advantage, but you can see double support standing up. Magi, however, being caught out here, he's going to get zoned out by Tracer, and in the meantime, we've got ourselves a DK 3 minutes into the game.
Yeah, BlossoM is not messing around here. They're definitely trying to not take any prisoners here. Already, the first tower is about to fall. There's only so much an early Dragon Knight can do, however, so wouldn't be surprised if it plays a little bit more passively now. And it's really cool to observe the laning matchup in the top lane between Leoric and Blaze. Although Blaze is one of the strongest solo top laners in the game right now, Leoric is one of the few heroes who can keep him in check, and to the point even where Wiz was able to pressure back Zhongha so much that top Shrine control never fell back into their hands.
Speaking of control, we've got some control over the structures for BlossoM as they've now The middle fort wall down, one tower in the top lane. They're trying to get some control here on the bottom lane. And in opening up structures, just walls, you don't have to get the early forts. Just getting some of the early structures and the fort walls down is far better than just trying to push down one lane. It gives you lane control. It gives you a lot that you can do on this battleground. You can see experience-wise, they were down about a half, 3/4 of a level going into that. They come out neutral and maybe just a slight bit ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Like, opening up the map is so important for BlossoM here. We remember back in the days where double support used to be really popular. One of the few ways to deal with it very efficiently was to take a lot of pushing power, a lot of wave clear power, and I think that's exactly what BlossoM has here with the Leoric, with the Junkrat. That's a lot of poke, but here we see a highly contested point. The bottom Mercenary camp is going to be really fought over.
Yeah, Wiz coming here on the backside, trying to get some pressure on Gondar. Has to power slide out just for safety, and Ballisitx was able to take control of that. Hooligan, however, eats a pulse bomb. The cleanse is going to be there. The armor is enough to keep him alive, and now they've turned their attentions to ETC as Gondar trying to get away. Power slides out, does live there as the Knights and company for Ballisitx pushing forward.
And this is the power of Turiel right there. He can bait so many cooldowns onto him. And if you're a seasoned veteran player like Hooligan, you know exactly when to use that Eldrin's Might as an initiation tool, or if you want to get out of harm's way. So really well done by Ballisitx. The Justice for All actually is a really cool twist to it, right? It adds even more protection power to the already hard-to-kill double support comp.
It's going to be extremely difficult to crack this as we take a look at some of those questing talents along the way. You know, looking at them, there's not anything that really stands out that kind of has that over-the-top momentum, but it definitely plays towards the longer part of the game. So we'll see how those play out. But looking at the damage numbers there, this is where the double support's going to come in at 17,000 damage on the side of SC for Vala. I mean, there's not much else there. So, again, keeping him alive is going to be the name of the game for Ballisitx.
Absolutely. Maybe it's worth mentioning that SCSC went for the W build, the multi-shot build. It's usually a nice tool to provide more reliable energy gain for Auriel. If you go arrow build, sometimes you miss one of those, and she's not going to get that much resources back from it. And it's a nice wave clear tool as well to keep all those Junkrat bombs in check.
Ooh, Gondar instantly locks in the mosh pit, and he misses there, but they do not miss the Entomb as they've got Auriel locked in. They do not have 10 there, and Auriel ends up following. They did commit several heroics to get that kill, though, Kinder.
Yeah, you may ask yourselves, guys, was that really worth it? I do say yes, because by the time Ballisitx turns 10, they're probably not going to fight immediately after again, so most of those cooldowns, especially the Entomb, especially the Riptire, will probably be ready again, but that was a very hectic moment there. Right now, they may actually have to surrender this Dragon Knight, depending on how much pressure Ballisitx wants to give over onto those shrines, because, as we just said, heroic abilities for BlossoM, rather not ideal situation right now.
Not at all. And you can see Gondar and team having to retreat just a little bit. Again, those heroics are big-time cooldowns, and they can't necessarily turn these fights with those cooldowns right now, but they have the shrine control. As Dudu putting the pressure on. Not able to bait out too much, but it looks like we're going to at least play neutral here as the bottom tower, the bottom shrine, captured by Hooligan.
Yeah, I just gotta mention Leoric here once again. I think so much pressure in that top lane consistently against the Blaze. That's not really an image we're used to seeing a lot, right, Jayhao? Because normally it's Blaze who turns the hero lanes upside down. Normally it's he in the driver's seat. But this time around, although top lane is getting low pressure, Ballisitx like, you know what? We're just gonna turn things around ourselves here. We're gonna get counter value in the bottom lane.
They get the push, they get the fort down, and they need to get some control back here because experience-wise was starting to get over in favor of BlossoM. I think playing even to this point, you know, again, the double support, there's going to be questions abound when it comes to it, and you have to win the team fights. And then after you win the team fights, you have to do a lot with it. They're able to get some of the structure value in, get some control of the battleground, and overall, that's actually a bigger win because that well is now down on their side. So if we do get to those skirmishes, those longer drawn-out fights, you don't have the well. Ballisitx does have the double support, and they've got a fallback option as well.
BlossoM getting dangerously close to level 13, which would be a pretty big advantage for them to go into those future team fights. Now, something I want to highlight here real quickly for Ballisitx is, as stable as their team composition is, as hard to kill as it is, they're going to have to manage their cooldowns very carefully, because if only one of those tools overlaps with another one, for example, if Divine Shield is cast while Sanctification is up, if the bunker is being used too early, it could really crumble very quickly. So not only do they have a rather gimmicky composition in the current meta, but they also have to execute it so diligently.
They will definitely have to execute it pretty much flawlessly. And I agree with you 100%. You know, I can't help but notice there that Wiz just getting so much free push on the top that he is going to get picked off here, getting some trait value, of course. But Jungle has had his hands full, Kendrick, in the sense that he's been trying to double soak those lanes. And for Ballisitx, it's hard to commit anything else to that because your wave clear is basically Vala. And speaking of Vala very far forward. The Pulse Bomb is out. The Crystal Aegis in return. The Power Slide in. Gondar, however, is going to be met with a Rain of Vengeance as he's going to go down. And Dudu trying to get any bit more counter push and unable to do so. But we've got a Concussion Mine out as well. All for naught as we see Gondar fall.
Yeah, that is the Ballisitx dream. A full energy Auriel, full shields everywhere on SCSC, most importantly there. Basically, at this point, SCSC is untouchable. You get a kill early on, and there's nothing BlossoM can do unless, you know, cooldowns were traded very evenly. For example, Hooligan going in once again with a holy ground as well. Tranquility's being pushed here, and BlossoM, they want to fight for this Dragon Knight.
They want to fight for it. SC, the Pulse Bomb's actually going to miss. Sanctification goes down.
Dudu.
They put Dudu under there as Hooligan uses that Aldruin's Might, goes in, confirms the kill. Tracer going down there, and this double support, they're finding ways to try and get in there, but they're unable to confirm any of the kills that they're really stretching for.
The Quantum Spike on Tracer is such a powerful tool, and it builds up rather quickly as well if you compare it to other heroic abilities, but there's always something ready to stop it from happening, whether it's the Bunker, whether it's the Crystal Aegis. Actually, totally forgot to talk about that heroic ability earlier on. There's just so many defensive tools that if they don't make a catch in a couple of split seconds, in the longer drawn-out fights, Jo, I don't think they're going to make it.
Yeah, and they really need to start to find a way to get an advantage elsewhere. They need to look at getting their Knights on their side, trying to force a response. Again, Blaze is not enough to just sit there by himself. You can force the rotation out. At this point, though, you got to worry about the counter push in the bottom lane. But they're doing it now. They're getting these Knights. They have to find a way to force rotations out, split up that 4-man, or force a rotation out to get the fight on your terms. The good thing for BlossoM is that because Wiz has done so well in that top lane, they've kept up the soak, they still have an experience advantage, albeit a small one. They're down in structures, but they've kept this game neutral for the most part.
And I feel a little bit sorry for Gondar and that ETC as well. True, ETC is a playmaking warrior, no doubt. But if you take a look at it, there's so many potential interrupts or so many tools to actually render a mosh pit useless anyways. Whether it's a knockback from Auriel, whether it's a stun by Blaze, a well-timed sanctification by Tyrael. It's not easy to make ETC work, and I think that is why oftentimes teams this tournament at least were relying on other warriors such as Murd and such as Anubrak.
Ballisitx turning their attention to the top. They got some Knights of their own. BlossoM didn't do much with theirs. They do still have Junkrat that was pushing in the bottom, so that will get some value.
Gondar's getting so denied right there.
He's getting super denied. He's looking for that flank, unable to get it. But now as Ballisitx has moved through this wall, they're almost 16. BlossoM picked up 16 in the meantime. But again, getting the counter push in the bottom, I think, was the best thing BlossoM got out of this.
All right, the Holy Ground providing a little bit of extra protection when it comes to retreating for just a little bit. The Knights are still pushing and strong. And up to this point, I think Ballisitx really has found their comfort zone. They're trying to get that Dragon. And actually, with a double support, you can even, wow, the Divine Shield there as well to render any interrupts completely useless. And with the double support, you can let that Auriel slide in there. So really solid Dragon Knight. Definitely well done.
This is one of those rare times where we're actually okay that Auriel is the one in the Dragon Knight, because generally like, wait a minute, support. Don't go in that thing. We need you alive. But speaking of alive, we see Gondar on the backside. Pulse Bomb has missed again, but we've got an Entomb here, Kendrick.
And that was a massive block there by Blaze as well, completely shutting down the entrance to the Entomb of Leoric, blocking the way, using his massive Firebat body to really keep the enemies in check. And now what looked like a good engage for BlossoM, it is once again full house, beautifully done for Ballisitx, and they're not done just yet.
They're not done just yet, but the Dragon Knight sitting at 11, 10% and falling. They get the fort down, they'll get a little bit of keep wall damage, but I think the breaks are going to stall just a little bit here because there's not a lot more they can do with it. They had an idea to turn their attention to the top lane, maybe take down that fort, push themselves a little bit closer to 20, but I don't think they're going to get as much value as they anticipated. But starting to slowly take down these structures is what they're obtaining, as now 2 forts down on the side of BlossoM.
Yeah, actually a very slow game if you compare it to the previous series where there were multiple kills, multiple high-action paced team fights here. Only 2 to 5 kills up to this point, but slowly and surely we're starting to get there. Nice Concussion Mine attempt here on Blaze. Immediately the bunker counter, though.
The bunker
not
counter.
in my house, you know?
Well, we're going to see the bunker. Everybody hops on out of there with a little bit of armor. The Entomb is going to lock them down. Mosh Pit is available. Let's see if he can find a way to pull the trigger as Gondar goes in. There's the power slide. There's the Mosh Pit. Divine Shield is out onto Uther, who comes in with the stun, but that's going to be the first takedown of the game as Tyrael goes down to the first takedown of the fight. Wiz somehow staying alive as the Riptire goes in. Uther falls down. They're maybe looking for more.
Double trade value up to this point. Can Uther Spirit keep everybody alive for now? It doesn't look like it. Zhongha dropping dangerously low. SCSC is down as well. The main carry no longer in the game. The bunker dance is about to commence here, but I don't think Blaze is going to make it out. The preemptive body blocks as well. And BlossoM is on a tear right now.
On a tear, and all they needed was Gondar getting that 1 second of value out of that mosh pit. Guys, sometimes you don't need that dream mosh. Sometimes it's a matter of like, look, if we can force out enough, you get the lockdown on 2 minutes or two members, and you get that 1-2 seconds of just free value to get out there. Perfectly played. Gondar, his positioning impeccable, going through there, and all of a sudden BlossoM, structural disadvantage is now looking like they're going to have complete control over this battleground, as that's 1 fort, 2 fort, and we're going to move to the bottom and make it 3.
And that is exactly the opportunity that BlossoM was looking for. Just trying to get that short window of opportunity for ETC to shine. A beautiful Entomb as well. The Entomb Riptire combination actually doing so much work. And we mentioned the value of Junkrat, not just in this game, but also in the previous set as well. And it really continues to do so well, the Junkrat that is, that I think he may have, well, you know, been the counter remedy, the anti-medicine against the double support from Ballisitx.
It was really surprising how long Ballisitx stayed in that area looking for that. Again, they used that Dragonite to go up there, and I questioned whether they would get much out of taking it up there. They stayed for so long, ended up turning on them, and now we've got a half, maybe 3/4 of a level lead in favor of BlossoM, which means they're getting close to 20. And if they're able to hold both of these and get a DK here where it looks like that's exactly what they're going to do, there's camps pushing in the bottom. If they can get to the bottom quick enough, get down 1 tower, they'll be at 20, threaten keep. And if Ballisitx isn't careful, again, if one piece of the puzzle for Ballisitx falls, the rest of it might fall as well.
And guess what Ballisitx lacks? They lack single target DPS, they lack damage, kill potential threat overall as well. The Dragonite, I think, is not going to get chipped down that quickly as long as Junkrat doesn't really overextend too much. The first tower is about to fall. We still have Siege Shine. Malfurion actually using a couple of regrowth spells on those Siege Shines to keep them alive for as long as possible. Still 55% health, 40 now on the Dragonite. Actually making a mistake here, trying to go for that punt, getting kited and losing a little bit of valuable time.
They lose a valuable amount of time. They will get the keep out of this, not going to get much more, not able to find that pick. But the bottom lane control, Kendrick, as we know on this battleground, is so significant. And that is a major play, especially when there's no global on the side of Ballisitx. The clear from them requires so many members or Blaze, and there's just not enough control when you run this double support style. And so they gave up a lot, and Ballisitx finds themselves in a tough position.
Yeah, and actually we talked about Gondar struggling a little bit in the early mid-game stages of the game. Now he's going to have that element of surprise with the Bolt of the Storm. ETC, probably one of the coolest heroes to have at level 20. So many beautiful talents to choose from, but the Bolt of the Storm in particular could allow for some fancy gameplays. If you get that 2-3-man stun in against several of the supports and warriors, then all of a sudden the dance party is not going to be shut down that easily.
Tranquility, something that, you know, a little bit more prevalent in Korea. Now we're seeing a little bit of upgrade as well. So you can get the cooldown reduction, you get increased healing. We'll see how that plays out in these team fights. Who needs double support when you can basically get a little bit of extra healing there from Tranquility? Maybe have a bit more uptime on that or a little bit more frequency on that, and we'll see how that plays out here into the late game. But with 20 tier advantage, we see BlossoM very aggressive with their positioning, but 20 almost here for Ballisitx. I think BlossoM's going to have to back out here in a moment. Just try and create something a little bit different on this battleground.
Yeah, and immediately we see the big hits, the big bangers coming in here. The redemption for Uther, the shield of hope for Ariel, that's going to be even more protection. So reckless play can be saved and rewarded actually even harder, because the more HP are missing from that target, the stronger, the more powerful the shield is going to be from Ariel now.
We get double shields. So
double shields, it's crazy.
Ariel shields, Tyrael shields, Angel shields everywhere. Bunker upgrade. I mean, Ballisitx is literally trying to make themselves unkillable, Kendrick.
Yeah, but can they kill the other team? That is the big question, right?
It's a good question.
You only have SCSC at this point, and oftentimes one Bala, despite the fact that you went for the multi-shot build, is not enough to keep all that onslaught, all those minions, all those mercenaries at bay.
shrines active now, and 20 tier for both teams.
The next one could end the game.
The next one very easily could end the game. Ballisitx has to be careful. Every move that they make has to be a team effort. But they'll also have the threat of catapults eventually. And once they start to just minorly push out about 3/4 of the way into the lane, that's when BlossoM can create opportunities.
And Ballisitx knows that. They're trying to make that aggressive play onto the bottom C-Gens because they realize if we end up taking too much pressure there, hey, BlossoM.
BlossoM's just going to push directly into the keep. This is okay. But they're not. Their retreat point is non-existent. They're going to have to go up and out. Now you can see
Gondor's got this. He can just easily knock them back. The roots are great for zoning there as well. That's the limited.
The Holy Grounds.
Holy Ground's good.
Holy Ground's got him in. Riptire in response. Bunker is down as well. Ballisitx starting to use some of all of their cooldowns. Blizz very deep in here as Wiz walking away using that Wraith Walk. Sanctification has already been used. Bunker is down as well. Some of those defensive cooldowns are down. Will BlossoM try and take advantage of that?
Yeah, this could be the moment for BlossoM to shine. They are going in for the big ominous Wraith. The knockback is huge as well. SC in a little bit of trouble, but it could be Wiz falling after all.
Wiz falls, but that is Leoric. He will be back quicker than anybody. Dudu trying to get away here. He has one blink charge. Hooligan trying to speed up and get everybody in there. The slow onto Gondar. Ballisitx walking away, trying to get there, but Wiz in that Wraith Ghost form, getting the slowdowns. But that could have just blown up. The Entomb went with the silence. They've got the counter engage. Tracer! Tracer, what are you doing there?
I mean, Tracer was just checking in. Are you really trying to posture up in the middle? Are you really trying to go
Leoric.
Yeah, exactly.
You literally have Leoric that should be providing vision of some sort there. Leoric should have been in that bush, following them, getting slows onto Ballisitx.
Right.
I don't know.
You know what I want to call that? I want to call it a touch of China. Those are the plays you don't necessarily understand, but they're entertaining in one way or the other.
All right, now, Ariel back in here. Ballisitx, they're going to turn their attention to the bottom lane, Kendrick. They want to try and neutralize this bottom lane, even up the catapults in that bottom lane. But they're also going to, 21 minutes in, look to potentially do more with this. But they have a long way to go. Getting through the keep wall, getting through the keep is just the first step.
Depending on how well this push goes, depending on how many kills they can actually secure here, this could be lights out. This could be game over for BlossoM here. Ballisitx is on the warpath. They're trying to get in there. Ominous Wraith is getting in there as well. The mosh pit, as you said, Jayo, could be a big game breaker and turnaround.
See, the Dragonite has taken down the keep. It's still pretty healthy. 50 seconds left, 55-ish% health-wise. The Dragonite moving forward, but Wiz, remember, he does have Buried Alive. You got to be careful here. Going too deep there. Wiz forcing them back. The Riptire's out as well, Kendrick.
The Riptire is trying to go for a sneaky flank. The mosh pit is getting interrupted by the punt. The Sanctification is huge as well. SCSC is low. He is the member that cannot fall under any circumstances, but he falls.
He falls, and that might not be the only one. Wiz somehow alive, and now the punt away. Dudu on the backside. He's going to see if he can confirm another kill as Ariel is all but dead on the left side. Crystal Aegis not going to do much there as the rest of BlossoM should be able to finish this up. And Kendrick, just like that with Ballisitx, all of those members down. It's only an Uther and a Tyrael, and this should be enough for BlossoM to move forward and in this game.
And here comes the Riptire around the corner. No mana left for Tyrael. The knockback is huge. Does he have another Eldrin's? Yes, he has. Junkrat with the cannonballs there as well, trying to keep up the chase, and he does so successfully. And I think this is it. I think BlossoM has done it. 4 members dead. 20 seconds until Blaze is back. Only Magi left to defend this core. And I mean, Magi's a good player and all. Uther's a great hero. He's Alliance after all, but he won't be able to do that, I guess.
Double support is struggling in a lot of areas, but you can see that when it comes to the overall control, when part of it falls, the rest of it falls, and BlossoM has come out here and punished this, and it all goes back to the team fight up at the top where Ballisitx stayed a bit too long, and the clutch mosh pit by Gondar and the Entomb by Wiz. When it comes to the coordination of those team fights, BlossoM seems to have a way to clutch it out, Kendrick.
I'm very impressed by the way BlossoM played this game. I mean, we did say that Wiz sometimes trying to go for a draft that may be a little bit too ambitious to make work, but against what is a very rusty, a very old-fashioned composition with a double support here. They seem to know exactly what they wanted to go for here. Drunkard, once again, those rip tires, those concussion mines, so much mayhem as well. And even the mighty fortress of team composition that Ballisitx tried to assemble here didn't work out.
It didn't, and I was so surprised when we got the end part of that draft. I expected Greymane, potentially adding a Taika somewhere in the mix there, but they ended up going into a Vala Ariel. And Kendrick, you had said the success of that Vala pick before, not so much. Now they're 0-2 in that regard.
Yeah, we're still waiting for that first SCSC Vala victory in 2018, and if you were questioning SCSC on that hero like a few months ago, somebody would have called you nuts, a lunatic actually, but I don't know, what's going on with Ballisitx here, Dread?
Hello. Hello. Mic works now. I mean, TLDR, I feel like his double support's a hard composition to run in this current meta, especially if you are not able to snowball and manipulate the map out specifically, again, that Night Giant rotation. Honestly, to me, it feels like when we see Korea run this, it's all inning on like the first 9 minutes, or not even 9 minutes, it's like first 4 minutes of the game and just going, can we be too difficult to be able to take out the front walls, get an early Dragonite, and once that happens, it's just, we have too much macro control, right? BlossoM never let that happen. They stalled it out. We were looking at like level 18, one fort was dead. That is absolutely the exact opposite. Even when double support was, you know, the OP meta, right? If you looked at that in a double support comp and you were like, you have all your forts available, pretty much -1 at that late of the game, you'd be like, I don't expect how you can win this, because that is what the comp is good at. The long, sustained siege. BlossoM did a great job dismantling it.
Yeah, and I do want to highlight Wiz again on that Leoric in the early game. It was so cool to see how BlossoM never had to worry about the bottom lane. Although you were facing a very energetic, a very strong 4-man rotation with the double support, with that Vala, the fact that they never had to send someone top, the fact that they never had to gank anyone in top lane really allowed them to keep the pressure up against what Ballisitx had. So Wiz, my personal MVP. Leorics oftentimes don't get enough credit for what they do.
Unless your name is Wubby. But
yeah, that is very true.
But either way, I mean, the fact that this is kind of the style that we expected BlossoM to play, and it was kind of the style that I did not expect Ballisitx to go down, just really, again, the draft that we saw from Ballisitx, there's so many question marks that you can just put up there.
I will leave it at for me, it's a game 1 against BlossoM. If you're Ballisitx, you've got to be confident against going against BlossoM. We talked about the dominance of the top 3 teams into Korea. Yes, BlossoM is obviously, you know, sitting at that 4th seed, one of the most respectable within the region. And then going on to Dragonshire, they were going to a comp that they kind of had success with, right? I guess it's not fair to say kind of, but they at least believed in, and we saw them display before. And so they're, you know, hitting the brakes for now, trying not to show anything. If this second game goes in the same direction or even close to that manner, as I feel like this whole tournament and the results and what everybody expected is going to just be like, who knows?
Well, speaking of who knows, one thing we do know is Towers of Doom was picked up, Dread. And before this started, we're back here kind of prepping, talking about how things work. And coming in after the first part of Phase 1, this was the only map that BlossoM had a win percentage over 500. And it was on Towers of Doom. They were 3-1. And this is kind of their best battleground when it comes to win rate, comfortability, and Dragonshire is just kind of like throwing a wrench into things. And so the fact that they get map pick on maps that they feel comfortable, they do well on, and they're experienced on, I think is something that is very telling and coming into this series. And if they're able to go up 2-0, you can say that the drafts and the maps are definitely something that are working in their favor.
And I think it's safe to say as well that we're not going to see double support again. I think, as you said, Dread, they may have tried to test the waters. How far can we get against a team that is quote-unquote inferior to us, like BlossoM? But here on Towers of Doom, where oftentimes you have scenarios which force you to split yourselves up, to have multiple fronts open at the same time, I think that doesn't really fit the playstyle.
Yeah, I hope we don't.
I hope to.
That's where I leave it. I mean, double support, I do believe still has a bit of a time and a place, but that very much was not in the last game. But again, the metas within the Eastern and Western world have been very different, very drastic and changing. And so I guess I'm not that surprised again to see that kind of display from them.
Right there. All the players out there are starting to sweat a little, starting to shake a little. Don't let double support be a thing again. I can already hear it. The Lily mains out there rejoice.
Oh, man, please.
We go straight to the Lily and double support. Kendrick, please.
I mean, if you're going to talk about a support, it might as well, like,
She's got a soft spot in my heart, unless she's in my team.
Tyrande.
Maev going to be the first ban for Ballisitx here for this draft on Towers of Doom. Genji being hovered. I hope to see this locked in again, not only because of the consistency of the Genji priority over the last series, but when we were talking about the pick of the Vala, right? ST's hero pool is, I mean, it's the only narrative I feel like to concentrate on this next draft. There's the Tyrael coming in, the Genji taking off. Are we still going to see a commitment towards that Vala, or is it going to be a higher priority on something like the Hanzo or, you know, the Wild Greymane?
Well, the Mouth Tracer obviously comes to mind here, but if we learned anything in our first series between KSV and Tempest was that, yes, that's good, but what happens when it's drafted against? And if the Uther comes out, you've got Tyrael Uther to defend against that. You have to consider the options of what your secondary option will be if you're BlossoM. And Towers of Doom, obviously quite a bit different. We talked about the whiz factor on Dragonshire, allowing him to rotate and to be into team fights a little bit more than he is on other battlegrounds. Again, that's where BlossoM really excels. When he's able to get into team fights, when he's able to be a part in a full 5-man skirmish, that's when BlossoM excels.
I'm waiting for one of those big, beefy bad boys here, like Diablo, like the Garrosh. I think Diablo in particular is oftentimes underrated on Towers of Doom. The map design just suits him so well. Yeah. We saw that at the Western Clash when Breeze was turning it up to a whole different level there. So we're not going to see any of those tanks being selected right now, though. The Tracer Mouth is just too solid, too strong of a staple here to ignore.
Hanzo Uther picked up there. Uther, we've talked about it. I mean, I feel like at this point we've seen enough of this pattern for do we not need to describe why the Uther is selected. But the Hanzo, it's not that it is a unique priority. It's just that they are showing that they are putting more focus into making sure that they don't have the, what I'm going to now title the Vala problem of last game. And really just every time that double support's been played out here. Not maybe, I don't want to say as successful a map for him, but it very much is compared to Dragonshire, but it is going to be great and successful most likely in these team fights by just having that double invulnerability. I like this for Ballisitx. I think that it's going to be the beginning of turning a new leaf of this series.
A hero that I want to talk about here real quick, J-How, is the Chromie. Against the Tracer in particular, we talked about potential Tracer counters, and oftentimes the Bronze Talon's slam damage from those auto attacks and even the potential burst combo as well is something that Tracer players need to be on the lookout for. And I think Towers of Doom out of all battlegrounds really suits Chromie because there's only so many angles she can get flanked from. So are you down with me on that train? Do you think Chromie should be a little bit more involved in this?
You know, SD has played a couple of Chromie games, and once you get to level 11, if you're Chromie, you can kind of just time out of things and make sure that if you are the Pulse Bomb, I think a lot of it comes down to if you're going double backline and Hanzo is already a vulnerable target, Uther can really only take care of one of those if needed. Having the secondary one, they have to have a fallback option. Chromie is one of the few heroes that would have that. Another hero that would have that I might be more in favor of is SDE's Tychus. It was his most played hero by far. So I think that Chromie is possible. I think Tychus is definitely viable here. And the fact that your Tracer kind of limits your options, I think, for a lot of those reasons is having that self-protection, whether it be a time trap, whether it be the time out for Chromie. So I think that is definitely in consideration, but I think it also depends on where BlossoM ends up in the later part of this draft.
All right. So the Junkrat, no more mayhem desired by Ballisitx. I can't really blame them after we saw what Reset was capable of doing on that hero in the previous set and what happened last game to them. It is good to abandon that one out, and Abathur coming in sneakily.
I was wondering if we would see maybe a different direction in the frontliner from BlossoM. Just because having the Abathur and the long sustained fight, or excuse me, the long shielding on somebody like a Garrosh and the threat they can provide, it makes it more difficult for Ballisitx to kind of get some of the norm. But ETC, he's a strong powerhouse. I mean, he was pretty successful at the Western Clash as well. Not surprised to see BlossoM go in that area, but it does... I do have some concerns, at least with their composition, not when I look at the overall strength, but because it is kind of flexing a little bit out of the norm for them. And Ballisitx now is... We see them sticking to their guns of what we saw in Korea. So I'm hoping that this is them going, you know what? We've done the math. We figured it out. We know how to deal with what Ballisitx is comfortable with, even on maps like Towers.
I'm afraid they're going to go into a Tassadar here. And
on Ballisitx?
Yeah. Not going into a Tychus at this point is just going to blow my mind. He does so well to deal with ETC. He's another interrupt for Mosh Pit. He shreds through ETC with his minigun.
Dahaka.
We get the Dahaka.
Not Tassadar.
There's the
Finally, 12-0. 12 and SDE is 12 wins, 0 losses, has annihilated people. 3.6 kills per game on this hero. As a Tychus, Dreadnought, that is shredding people as a Tychus.
Are you enthusiastic about this Tychus pick, Jay?
I'm just so happy that we finally get it.
No, I agree with you. I am actually very satisfied to be able to see it. But this is, it's hard to talk about, honestly, because it is one of these, the conflicting metas, and for the first time, it does feel like, you know, again, that the Western scene with the rise of the strength of it, and not only within North America, but more so within Europe, just that it's kind of hard to gauge. It's like, at what point do you sit there and you go, like, they are dominant on the Tychus, but it's just not their meta, not their playstyle, especially when Ballisitx, a team that you would look at and you'd be like, after their games yesterday, you go, they're going to dominate BlossoM, right? And then that struggle in the first one, it just goes, where's the mix-up going to come in? I'm glad to see them go with the Tychus as well. I feel like it's going to be a bit more thought out. We get our rare wild Dahaka, one of the first times we've gotten him throughout this entire tournament, probably thanks to that Junkrat ban. Last slot in, we got ourselves a Zeratul.
That's a Wiz favorite right there if he ends up on that hero after all, because we'd have a couple of candidates who could possibly end up on it. Modern Life, actually a really solid Zeratul player as well if he desires to play it. And I'm really glad though that you guys share so much enthusiasm over SDE, because to me he's always like one of those unsung heroes. Like a lot of attention is on SCEC, obviously. We have players like Magi who recently got into the limelight a little bit. SDE, but if you have such a solid, reliable player, 12-0 as you said, Jayhow.
12. Yeah, it's
go
12-0. You have Relentless Soldier if you need, which gives you armor if you're stunned or rooted. Oh, by the way, ETC's there, Malfurion's there. You can also go quarterback range to get that extra poke on the backside, hit a Tracer running away. You also have Neosteel coding, so at 13 you get hit with a Pulse Bomb. You don't need the Uther protection. Allow Hanzo to do whatever he wants to do. Got Horsies going on here.
Okay, that was a money pick.
I thought it was my stomach.
Money pick.
I thought it was my stomach.
We're ready for this game. You know, Jayhow's going to break down some of the reasons Tychus is effective into the Tracer and some other reasons why the Tychus is so good. SDE is going to put on a clinic here. BlossoM versus Ballisitx on Towers of Doom.
Game number 2 is on the way, Jayhow. After witnessing how BlossoM dismantled Ballisitx in the late game, I am very pumped to see if they can do it again and make it a double, maybe a triple, and take this entire series in advance.
I know Dread likes it when it's a triple.
Oh, baby. We all do.
Either way, we've got Towers of Doom here. Ballisitx falling short with their double support composition. And Kendrick, if you look at the draft here from Ballisitx, it was, if you could say, hey, look, ignore the map, ignore everything that you know, and just look at drafts of Ballisitx and comprise me a team, this would be it.
Yeah. Definitely true, and I'm really excited to see how well the Zeratul is going to fare here in this game, because traditionally speaking, we don't really have like a true wombo combo setup here. True, there could be a little bit of ETC mosh pitting in there, but it's nothing like the team composition that we saw from KSV Black, the Warden's Cage, with the Junkrat Riptire, for example. So this is more of a more harassing Zeratul playstyle, to really catch somebody off guard, trying to bait a couple of cooldowns only to blink to safety, and maybe then use a little bit of confusion, use the cooldowns of Uther to then execute a target with Tracer combined.
The amount of wave clear here by Ballisitx is insane when you look at it compared to BlossoM. I mean, you can get a little bit of clear from Zeratul, but Tracer doesn't have good clear. Malfurion doesn't have good clear. ETC doesn't have good clear. And the only time ETC really gets any bit of wave clear is post level 7, generally around Echo Pedal. But right now, they can just control the lanes, force the rotations, and allow them to get camps. And I would not be surprised going against an Abathur composition and a Zeratul that's basically going to be held to that top lane. You can use the global to come in as Dahaka, just invade the other side, and try and take so much early game control away from BlossoM.
Yeah, just definitely make sure not to waste the first camp entirely, so maybe just wait until the tower has fallen, or maybe the gate as well, but I'm totally down with you on that train. I think they have more than enough early game pressure to invade the next Zapper camp on the left-hand side as well, and even try to steal away from the BlossoM team. For now, let's see what they do. Actually, Gate and Tower are gone. Are they going to follow the next piece of advice that we gave them? Or are they going to play it a little safer? Magi going on the
they can literally
clean duty.
Yeah, I mean, they can literally do whatever they want, Kendrick.
Yeah.
I mean, they have so much wave clear that they forced out the rotation so heavily that they went and took that camp confidently. There's no risk of an invade. You have the Dahaka, you have that global available to you. Zeratul has had the hat of Abathur committed to him to try and win that lane. But if you take a look at the bigger scale of the battleground, it's definitely in favor of Ballisitx.
Yeah, Hanzo even going W build here as well. Maximum PvE damage now, as long as he manages to land those scattering arrows. Material trying to go in there with an Eldrin's Might due to feeling the pressure a little bit, but they are neglecting this mercenary camp up to this point. I think they could have taken it a couple of moments ago, but now with the activation of the Altar is imminent, they're probably going to wait after. But look at the experience advantage here. As we pointed out, early wave clear secures early game domination and rotation, and if you get that, an early game experience lead is nothing too uncommon.
I mean, the threat every single time they rotate. There's absolutely nothing that BlossoM can do. They're just kind of hanging out, hoping that Zeratil's getting a little bit of poke. And this standoff will be particularly interesting on whether BlossoM even tries to defend this, which I don't think there's any possible way that they can.
Yeah, especially when you have an Avatar in your team composition, you're just going to try to play it as slowly as possible. That's also one of the reasons why Towers of Doom, of course, is a relatively forgiving map for a weak, slow start of an Avatar team, because you don't necessarily lose, you know, keep health or too much tower health immediately. You can always capture those bell towers back. So up to this point, a very one-sided game in favor of Ballisitx, but that could very much change after level 10.
See how it goes in the meantime, as SC did go into that scatter arrow build, so ripping through these sappers is just a pretty easy task, to say the least. They're getting vision over there. They're trying to see, do we have an opportunity for an invade? If not, where can we get that advantage? And there's an advantage as the roots go in directly behind that slide, but the Uther armor goes in, a little bit of spray goes down in the meantime.
Yeah, you know, the Pulse Bomb not really doing too much. The Uther heal was there. SCSC using natural agility to get to safety immediately, and that's the beauty of Towers of Doom when you end up playing against a Tracer and you have that tool to jump over a wall, because Tracer is great at catching up as long as it's a straight line, as long as there's open space and territory, but around buildings, around hidden and obscure terrain, she can't follow that fast.
Good point you bring up there. And, you know, I want to take a look at the Avatar build now, because we've seen some variety, especially on Towers of Doom, depending on the region that you're at, but they are lacking a lot of team fight damage, I think. It's so much burst damage. When you look at Zeratil, when you look at Tracer, there's not a lot of sustain. And so where are you going to get that? Getting that extra stab damage, that extra range, allows you to poke a little bit safer, maybe get in a position to where you're not necessarily being super aggressive, but it just gives you another element to the team fight. And right there, the threat of the invade forced them off.
Yeah, like that one Eldruins was like, hold up. I'm coming in, but it was a good bluff, because I don't think Ballisitx was actually trying to commit to this play. Preemptive roots once again to deny any tutorial shenanigans. Wiz is trying to channel again. Zhongha coming in with a backside tongue.
Comes in, unable to land it as the blink out by Wiz. SC trying to get the channel. It looks like he's going to do so. And now we are looking at 36-24. It is Towers of Doom, Kendrick. It's always going to be the map where we see some of the most exciting comebacks. We are talking about an Avatar composition, but it is a high level of execution for BlossoM to pull off a Zeratul Tracer Avatar comp. If it works, it's going to look amazing. If it doesn't work, it's going to go a lot like what we've seen so far through the first 6 minutes.
I don't think all is gloom and dark, though, for BlossoM. They actually did a fairly admirable job of keeping the pace up and experience. The fact that they were able to stall it out a little bit longer for those altars as well allowed Avatar to get the double soak in, and I think they're not going to be too far behind, but I agree with you in terms of core health. Up to this point, they weren't really able to secure a lot of those altars.
Not able to do much yet, but now we see BlossoM trying to find their way back into this game structure-wise, which is one of the quickest ways to get XP. But Ballisitx rapidly approaching 10. The power slide out, the cleanse, and Zhongha trying to go in. He gets the stun, gets the tongue, gets the land. That's going to be our first blood of the game. That is Zhongha coming in on that Dahaka, but credit to Magi, the cleanse, getting the cleanse in there to make sure he could get into that position.
Absolutely. I can't stress enough how well Magi played that, anticipating actually what ETC was trying to do there, using his massive Torn body to peel for the backline. However, it was not enough after all. At least no massive cooldowns were burned on the side of BlossoM. Look at Malfrian, by the way, holding the irrigability a little bit.
He's, you know, I was going to say, there's no way you don't go Sanctification, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just, who are you judgmenting at this point? Either way, see everything pretty standard. We do see Tranquility again, but Zhongha in team. We'll see if he comes in. The clone is out.
The clone is out. Modern Life going back in and out there, using all the mobility that he has. Gets shipped down, gets focused down very quickly. No real damage was caused up to this point. Zhongha going in with a blind tongue. That could have someone been inside. Without the copy, I'm not even sure if BlossoM can still contest this. Magi for now getting interrupted, but the Odin has been popped. And that is a serious statement right there.
Yeah, that is such a menacing thing to walk into, and Wiz going in. that. He blinks right back out. Tranquility is out. BlossoM hitting the reset button, but the tongue is going to land one more time. The stun going to be on the Gondar, who's forced to power slide out. Hooligan going in. The VP on the backside, buying a moment of time. I think it's more for safety than not.
Definitely, that was a safety precaution measure here. Otherwise, the follow-up would have been too real. Another tongue lands. Jungha, you are a monster in this game, turning it around single-handedly. But also, I really think that resource management was really well done for BlossoM here, because Nasang here was so low on mana, he couldn't really sustain his team anymore. He used the Tranquility very early as well. After that, he had no juice left, no tree juice to keep anyone alive still. I think that was just a hasty engage, an unnecessary engage once again by BlossoM.
Not even sap, we're just going to call it tree juice.
Tree juice. I'm
tree
down.
Juice.
Tree hugger, tree juice. That's what Malph's all about.
But it's sap. Trees, they have sap. I know, I'm allergic to it, actually. Either way, level 12 to 11 here. Some of the XP has been caught up a little bit in these team fights as Abathur's been soaking, but the main name of the game is obviously your core health on Towers of Doom, and we're looking at 36 to 20. And if you're on the side of BlossoM, your opportunities have been extremely limited, and you're starting to slowly lose control of this bottom lane, which is the most terrifying one, especially look, the next altar phase will be here at the bottom. I think we got a double altar phase, so the mid-bottom. And if you lose control of this bottom lane, Kendrick, that is a very difficult position to be in.
Definitely true. Let's see how much value they can get out of this push. A Justice for All affects minions as well. They take so much protection. Look at all that damage on Modern Life's copy here. Hanzo is having none of it. A double Dragon's Arrow coming in as well. Jungha trying to go for those cheeky tongues once again. Tranquility here to keep the defenses up and running.
Look, all I got to say there, that is a small play that just happened, but Modern used his clone to interrupt or intercept the tongue of Dahaka, because the Dragon Arrow went on to Wiz, and he was going to die. That tongue was going to land. Modern sacrificed his clone for that. That's a small but subtle play, but it's not going to be here as Wiz gets caught in that tongue, but now Wiz turning back around, trying to take the team fight. Wiz got to be careful here.
All emergency buttons were used there. Even another one coming in with a VP. Catches 3 men inside, though. But so many abilities had to be used to once again just keep the tongues at bay. Jungha left and right on that Dahaka. He's so good in that hero, forcing out so many early cooldowns. No, SDE alone on this Tychus is enough to keep the whole team of BlossoM away from the Tyrael. Another double channel. So many shots, so many cannon balls are now raining onto the core of BlossoM. This is looking more and more sinister.
Another one.
And another one.
It's 2 kills to 0, Kendrick. And it seems like BlossoM is grasping at straws draft-wise. This is, again, the level of execution, the difficulty level of this composition is so high that I just don't know. What are your scrim results that you're practicing this and saying this is what we know will work? It's throwing a loop into things against Ballisitx, but Ballisitx draft this game, not the double support that we saw. And so this draft is having a very difficult time finding kill. I don't even know if they've been close to getting a kill yet.
You know what? I think this draft for BlossoM is suffering from the Wiz disease, where they're making a call like, you know what? I'm going to go on that Zeratul and we're going to pick Abathur and we're going to make this happen, boys. But do we have enough to actually make it work? Nobody's saying a thing in communications, and they just lock it in. And while it worked for teams like KSV Black, where they actually had a Zeratul, they actually had stuff to combo it with, in this game, BlossoM looks a little bit helpless, don't they? They are trying to make those aggressive plays, but they lack the lockdown, they lack the kill potential, because Ballisitx team composition is so elusive, so slippery. Trying to catch a Hanzo in Towers of Doom is so hard. Luther protection is real. Jungha is actually turning it upside down and engaging every single time.
Kendrick, this is potentially lethal if all 3 altars are channeled here by Ballisitx.
Boss is up as well.
And the way that this has been going, Boss is there. So if you got 2 in a team fight and then you take Boss, even if you give up 1, this is potentially game over. And BlossoM has had so much difficulty in team fights that this is the moment. If they're going to turn it around, they have to dominate a team fight right here, right now.
Yeah, and the way you can play it as Ballisitx, as you said, you can go for 2 altars, take a chill pill, try to bait a couple of those cooldowns, of those long cooldowns like Tranquility maybe, or the VP, and then go for the, oh, I like that move here. The Slugger is keeping the team in the game, and then go for the boss, you know, when there's no more Tranquility, when there's no more Moshpit available. So I'm really curious to see how Ballisitx is going to play it out. They're playing it super safe, though.
They're playing it safe, and who can blame them? I mean, they just turn their attention to the bottom lane. Again, getting this bottom lane control. Tracer doesn't have great siege. Post 13, she has bullet spray, kind of gets a little bit of AoE damage. If you can get control of this, Zeratil's not clearing. You're sieging potential, but we've got a clone. Modern is coming in on that Zeratul clone. SDE eats the pulse bomb, uses that, and he is isolated and deleted.
And that was the wrong call, my friend. SDE trying to use the Unstoppable and the armor to keep himself alive from the Odin channel, but he was so deep in enemy territory that he got blown to pieces in a couple of seconds there. Now we see the follow-up there as well. Nasang here actually doing so much work this time around. He's not out of mana. He is protecting everybody, and now it's time for BlossoM to really secure as much value as they can. 2 people dead for Ballisitx. This is their time to shine.
It's their time to shine, and Ballisitx did not obtain that bottom bell tower on the side of BlossoM. They were a little bit hesitant to make that call, and their slow rotation forced them back and in a bad spot. As BlossoM all of a sudden, Kendrick, what seemed like Ballisitx was coasting, I mean, they're still pretty far ahead, but what we're about to witness...
Are you saying BlossoM is blossoming right now?
I think that they are definitely blooming.
There we go. So can they keep up the momentum? That is the question. I mean, Towers of Doom is probably the most famous map when it comes to making those comebacks happen, but can they keep up the pressure? Can they keep up the momentum? It's all about securing every single altar. If you drop down to 4, Boss is actually lights out. Eturial, you can't really contest it that well.
We'll see as we've got single altar phase. You can see Dahaka already using that Brush Stalker, wasting no time, making sure they don't get caught out. VP available in 9 seconds. We saw them isolate the Uther, making sure that they could not get that D-shield off. And that was how last time played out. Let's see if it plays out this time as Zhangha waiting in the bushes. Hooligan isolating. Ooh, Dudu eating quite a bit of damage.
Dudu actually getting some serious poking down here from SCSC. Now keep in mind, we do have some funky potential plays that Ballisitx can pull off. With the Sanctification, with the Divine Shield, you can actually turn someone invulnerable while channeling. And if they get just 1 more altar, this fancy play could be the difference between victory and defeat.
You need it twice. SDE gets the armor on the backside, eats the Pulse Bomb. He's going to go back, tap, reset. So no Pulse Bomb available for a bit longer. So we'll see. Ballisitx, again, because of that factor, because of the Divine Shield and the Sanctification, you can double up on those at any moment and just get 1 altar now, get 1 altar later. I agree with you. Let's see how it plays out, though, because they're looking for a fight. The clone coming out as well.
Modern Life using the copy here. Sanctification is good. Basically sealing these the choke point here. Let's see what the BP can do. So low here is ETC. No more mosh pit available. Was actually interrupted very shortly there. It's a double kill for Ballisitx.
It's a double kill, and they're looking for more. Dudu trying to go away. Zhangha just barely misses the tongue. They get the stun on a Nasang. Put the Pulse Bomb in return. The armor is just enough to keep SC alive, and he wants nothing to do with the rest of that team fight. He's going to get the channel in. Son got to be careful. You can see he wants to get that Moonfire, but this is not the old school Malfurion. We got that Elun's Grace at level 4. That thing does not exist anymore.
Now they're posturing up here. I think the rotation indicates that Boss could be the next objective they want to go for. Still 18 seconds until Zeratul comes back. No VP ready. If they're smart and if they're counting cooldowns, then they will realize that they still can actually take this very easily. The PvE damage.
Hanzo's scatter arrow build is going to rip on through this. Dudu going in on Tracer. The Holy Ground's going to lock him out. That's going to be the Boss pickup. And we had a little bit of a tense moment there for Ballisitx, but Kendrick, they were able to clutch it out.
They were able to clutch it out really well, my friend, and I think Ballisitx just played this cool, calm, and collected. They didn't really take on any unnecessary risks. They knew exactly when to pull the trigger, when to flip the switch, and as much as I like the idea behind the Zeratul and the super high aggression that we saw with the Tracer Zeratul, I just think it didn't work out this time, unfortunately, for BlossoM, and the series is now tied 1-1.
It's tied 1-1, and I can't help but appreciate the fact that Ballisitx just kind of kicked it old school, went back to the drafts that they're aware or that they're familiar with, go into something. But again, BlossoM, their draft just really surprised me, Josh.
It surprised me a bit too. It feels, you know, very on the reactionary side, obviously trying to kind of claw deep in the deeper parts of their hero pools after that came out with the standard composition on the side of Ballisitx. But I feel like the day and night difference between Ballisitx in Game 1 and Game number 2 has got to be a huge tell for a lot of the teams here at this tournament. looking at them and trying to find ways to push the hero pool a little bit farther and really kind of punish.
Yeah, that was just such a good display as well. And we mentioned it during the cast as well. There were so many things they had to pay attention to, but I think Towers of Doom, the map choice alone, played such a crucial role on when it came to keeping those backliners safe. Hanzo, he was so hard to catch, he was so elusive, and even the Modern Life copies weren't enough to really seal the deal at any given point for BlossoM.
The whole thing, the Uther armor, again,
So good.
holding back there. You keep the one squishy target that you have alive. That's the Hanzo. Tychus, he got caught out the one time, but it was a really good VP, good coordination. But Tychus can keep himself alive. The Neo Steel coating, if you opt to go that route, we saw the Odin being used for armor one time. You also give yourself the unstoppable status. It wasn't necessarily the most impactful moments, but that's all that you need sometimes against compositions like that. You survive a little bit, you gain so much more when you come back.
I feel like that's oftentimes when we kind of refer to, is this backliner worth it in this situation? It's like, well, if the win condition is only going to get that one kill, why take the risky squishy? And that's where Tychus always seems to come in there. SDE, I feel like, put up a really good argument for it in that game. You know, enthusiasm
to be undefeated.
Yeah, enthusiasm well deserved. But after that second game, we are going to go to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to have more actions because keep in mind, we are tied up 1-1 here between BlossoM and Ballisitx. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back here where we have the series again tied up between BlossoM and Ballisitx 1-1. You know, game number 1 on Dragonshire, the double support didn't work out for Ballisitx. Game number 2, Towers of Doom, sticking back to the Hanzo double invuln composition, and it looked a lot more clean, controlled, and calculated. But I want to know where we're going for map number 3. I'm sure you guys at home want to as well, so we're going to go ahead and find out right now where we're going to be headed.
You know what I want to see? I want to see some Braxes. Not everyone may agree with this choice, but
You're
it's
done.
time for it.
Get out of here.
Well, the good thing is it's banned.
It's banned.
Come on.
Ballisitx taking us to Sky Temple here for game number 3. Anybody have any immediate thoughts, concerns about Sky Temple pickup here for this, you know, leading game here? Somebody's going to break away.
I think this is basically catering or doing very well if you're a patient, if you're a well-rounded team that knows how to disengage. And I think if there's one thing that Ballisitx just showed us, it's exactly that. They knew exactly how to keep the backliners safe. They knew how to kite the enemy team around. BlossoM up to this point is the aggressive team, and I think they need to make those plays happen. Oftentimes in game number 2, it looked a little bit too forced. It looked a little bit too late. So I think in Sky Temple, if they're trying to go for a similar approach with maybe an Abathur, Tracer, Zero Tool, whatever.
I think it's time to bust out that Illidan. I know what you're thinking.
Ooh, that's a whiz hero.
The
if I've ever
whiz
seen one.
Illidan.
Yep.
You kick it old school, but I think when it comes to Ballisitx, they took the map pick. They understand their win condition. I think after that second game, double support didn't work for them.
No.
But when they play standard, and you go back, I remember BlizzCon 2016, leading up to that, Ballisitx was doing things macro-wise, and it came to Sky Temple that I just had not seen from other teams, the way that they were doing it. And they instantly, I fell in love with the way that they played the game. Yes, they have a few changes, but when they fall back to the more standard style, and that's what you and I were talking about, is like they have a great team fighting, but they also rely on macro. When they diversify and just play a balanced approach, I think that suits them much, much better.
I very much agree with you. And on the macro sense here, on Sky Temple, that Giant and Knight kind of conundrum that we were talking about with some of the other Korean teams that we've seen play here already today is very much going to come to light. And we'll see whether or not BlossoM can keep it controlled. They're going to start out by ridding of the Tracer. Ballisitx takeaway, Mayav. First pick on to the Genji here for BlossoM.
What happened to our boy Lucio, by the way?
I mean, to be honest, he just is way too slow compared to everything else. Like, let's be real here. Let's drop the... every single time. Like, everybody is so mobile, so fast to get that damage out. He's just unreliable to make that happen. Every other, you know, support within this meta is just so quick to make that happen. I mean, Divine Shield, instant, right? And the impact that they have is, I don't want to say equal to Lucio because I would say equal. He's on a kind of tier of his own, but that's a lot of it. Talking about, you know, some of the supports in the Uther and the incident, you know, Ballisitx committing to the double invuln immediately. Once more, I don't think that's going to change. I think that's going to just be a staple throughout this tournament.
You know, Rhaegar, I think, is something that if they want to fall back, Malfurion obviously let through here. Malfurion does do well with Genji the same way that you would with a Tracer, is that you can hit them with a regrowth and they can be pretty much anywhere on the map and make sure you hit the Moonfire on the heroes, they're going to get heals. So that does fall. The Uther's not there for that huge protection. So I wonder if they might fall back to a different style with that, with the Rhaegar. But if they do that, that would probably fall past second ban.
If you're watching us from NA or Europe, then you may be a little bit shocked by the lack of Twilight Dream play up to this point. But Asian teams, they just love the fact to drag it out a little bit longer, to have a secure addition, basically, to keep all the squishy heroes alive next to Malfurion. And up to this point, with the exception of Nasang having a little bit of a mana mismanagement issue there, I think it always gave them great value, and especially in heroes like Genji or Junkrat, who's traditionally always kind of close to Malfurion in terms of positioning anyways. I think it's such a safe choice.
I agree with you. It is a pretty safe choice. And, you know, yesterday when we're watching Nasang onto the Malfurion, there was oftentimes, you know, concerning about positioning, but I feel like today, for the most part, things have been cleaned up a little bit. You know, maybe some criticisms here and there. The high Junkrat once again continues throughout this tournament. That's going to provide, you know, not too much when you look into already on the composition of, you know, Ballisitx. It's going to deter a couple of offlaners and control the map a little bit, but other than that, and the AoE spread damage into an Uther, I do question whether or not this is going to be maybe a concern for BlossoM as we get past the secondary ban phase.
I'm pretty sure a Blaze would look good here. I mean, Dahaka maybe if you want to go that route. Jongha played a pretty amazing Dahaka last game, landing several key tongues, but the Tyrael Blaze Uther composition, and then you just kind of hit your double back line. Maybe you can go back into that Hanzo route, something that SC likes to play. Maybe you end up with a Greymane this time around. But no matter what, every piece of that, it does well on its own. It does well compositionally. I think Ballisitx, if they want to go that route, would look good, but they opt for a Malthael instead.
So, SDE is going for another one of those Tychus games, trying to continue his flawless streak up to this point. Now, a hero that I want to bring up that could maybe find his way, or the way into the tournament meta here, is maybe the Gul'dan. I think he's so good against Uther. It really confuses and almost surprises me that none of the teams is actually willing to use that spread out damage, to use the Horrifies, most importantly, because Uther, as probably one of the most melee of supports, is usually going to get hit by that.
Yeah, and he is very susceptible to just that spread damage as you were talking about. This is a map that you don't get as much value out of his control, and he is a bit of a later stage character, so I wouldn't be surprised in this draft we see it hold off, but I agree with you. The Gul'dan, or more the lack of, has been a little, you know, interesting through this tournament. Jay, you got a face. What is it?
Tychus Malthael. What's the #1 hero that BlossoM loves to run on the front line, that just loves to taunt everybody? Garrosh, right? So you take the Garrosh off the table. They ban the ETC in the second ban slot.
I think we're talking about Varian here, right?
Clearly, we're talking about Varian. But this is the fallback option. Anub'arak is kind of that third tier when it comes to BlossoM on that front line. But the Tychus and Malthael are basically like, go ahead, pick Garrosh. We dare you. And I think that that right there is controlling not only the draft, but a little bit of the draft on the side of BlossoM. They fall back to the Anub'arak, which is not bad. If you can get the full dive composition between a Blaze and Anub'arak and a Genji kind of coming in behind that, that does do well. But the amount of protection that comes in from Tyrael and Uther, I think that's probably a bit more significant.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if Cocoon is going to get that much value in this game if Ballisitx plays it well. Tychus, with his fast attack speed, can actually shred those things really fast. Malthael, the poison damage, if you will, although I'm not sure if Malthael actually spreads poison. And then even if you spend a lot of time with Tyrael and Uther, increasing attack speed at level 7, you can normally pop those Cocoons very fast. So the value of Anub'arak when it comes to his regability remains a little bit questionable up to this point.
Yeah, again, I think the Tychus Malthael were specifically to counter everything on the front line, and targeting that, they end up with the Greymane, a bit of a where has this been for a while pick on the side of Ballisitx.
It is interesting. I was wondering if there would be any thought or fear to, again, try and consider the Li Ming, and I was afraid if they were going to go in that direction to try and deal with that, but they decide that the Tychus is enough to deal with the Cocoon. I think that's a safer route there, just because we saw so many defensive, especially with the bunker and that counter momentum on the other side. I was like, if we see this committed, I mean, Malthael's a great setup for resets, but bunker's also a great deterrent to a lot of resets, so I'm glad to see them go avoid that route. I'm surprised, though, to see that if they go into a damage route, to not give too much consideration to Cocoon, but then being a Greymane and a squishy in this manner, it does feel like, again, one of those kind of risks that maybe might be a little bit too far and concerning, because now there's a lot of pressure on Hooligan on that Tyrael to be effective with the Sancts, which, by the way, last game had some legendary sanctifications.
And speaking of pressure, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Gondar as well, who's probably going to play that Anub'arak, because if you think about it, the Worgen attacks, the Odin attacks as well coming in from Tychus, that is a lot of hard-hitting punching power. So if you're in a squishy beat like Anub'arak, you're going to have to think twice about when you want to engage and how deep you want to engage.
Well, see how it plays out here. We've got ourselves a series 1-1, and BlossoM had a lot of success in game 1, not so much in game 2. This draft definitely looks a lot more, I guess, reserved than the composition we saw between the Zeratul Abathur Tracer last game. We'll see, as Dreadnought alluded to, the play around the Siege Giants and the Knights. Early game with Greymane. Look at that 1 minute mark. The minute that plays out, for them to go through, they're actually looking to get a little bit of early game structure damage here.
Yeah, that was a really good move here by Ballisitx. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get the tower all together. The rotation from BlossoM was too fast for that, but already that paves the way for future Siege Giant pushes there. So well done, Modern Life, taking a little bit of damage there as well, in a 3-man push coming in from Ballisitx.
Jongha gonna go ahead and just kind of casually hop on over Wiz there, applying his Reaper's Mark, allowing him to just jump on over. We're 10 seconds away. Once this middle wave clears, where Ballisitx goes from here in terms of their camp priority, look at that, they're instantly rotating out to move directly to that. This is when I said Ballisitx a year and a half ago did things that no other team was doing, this is another element, right? They're using Tychus to prep the lane. They're using Greymane and Uther to just go in here. They want to clear this as fast as possible. They have faster clear. They have quicker clear. They prep that lane from the very opening seconds of the game to force a response from BlossoM and gain control.
Now, Jeha, look at that level 1 talent coming in from Greymane. That puts us back a couple of months when the cocktail build was just the go-to build to go for. Now, traditionally a little bit replaced by Viciousness at level 1. So a reason potentially for me to explain this talent choice, and the question is if we're going to see the 7 cocktail as well, is maybe with the number of beetles in the game, there's always going to be one target to trigger the cocktail to allow the cone to hit the damage behind the target. I'm not really sure what to make of this just yet.
Yeah, I think I agree with you when it comes to those beetles, and this is something, because they split Malthael off, they got their Knights first, they have the Greymane, they're getting this early structure damage in. When it comes to the first Temple phase, which comes in at 3 minutes, it's a matter of a lot of teams, since the gameplay changes, get the top wall down. Blizz is locked in here, and he is locked in to the death zone, as that's going to be our first blood, but getting this down just opens up that top temple to get that much more value.
Yeah, that Tychus minigun and the auto attacks were just chipping away the health of Blaze like there was no tomorrow. The body blocks, all that mayhem and confusion going on near the gates was just so cool to see. I mean, Blaze was so close to escaping, but he just couldn't squeeze it in there.
Needs a bunker.
Needs a bunker.
Well, Jongha down here, this will be a lane that he should be able to win pretty easily, and he can rotate up. We do see on a Pale Horse again, so if he elects to stay down here for one more wave and then work his way up, see if they can kind of get the advantages. Now, we've already looked at about a 3/4 level lead. SDE, though, that's going to change things.
Yeah, that's absolutely going to change things. 18 seconds with both temples available. Now it is up for Ballisitx to basically avoid any more confrontations. They're just trying to hold the top temple. That's already where Uther and Greymane, the Alliance Bros, are assembled. They're trying to keep it up for a little while. And let's see how much aggression BlossoM, on the other hand, is now willing to apply here. Or whether they want to go bottom, maybe, you know, soak it up all the time. Because if you take a look at it, Jay, due to the early game aggression from Ballisitx and the mercenary pushing power, it's almost an entire level lead that they've established here.
Yeah, definitely something that they've done, and you know, as you had predicted, do see the cocktail build here at level 7, getting those stacks, and it will be something that SC will try and do throughout this game. With the 7 talent to your advantage, they're going in. See Genji hopping on over the wall. Gondar taking a lot of pressure on the front line. It looks like Ballisitx should be able to turn this and take the last few shots of this temple.
Yeah, with Wiz on the Blaze being here in the middle as well, they're basically, or they were committed to making a play. They weren't able to do so, however. So more temple value actually going over to Ballisitx, and this is going slowly but surely from bad to worse here. Already such a massive disadvantage for BlossoM. Can they come back after 10 maybe if they have more playmaking moves like the Genji Dragon Blade, like the Riptire from Junkrat 2?
I just want to see what Ballisitx does from here on out.
Yeah.
I mean, they set up from the very start of the game an entire strategy, and this is something that if you're not prepared for, you don't know the counters to, it's very hard to adapt on the fly because they have so much rotational advantage with the Uther Tyrael Greymane to supply anything. They have the clear from Tychus. They have so many different elements that can take advantage of any 2-second delay that you have.
Yeah.
And we are looking at a level and a half lead It has been calculated from the first second. I cannot express how strong this has been for Ballisitx to start this game.
You know what? I'm just going a little crazy here, and I think if they maintain this huge lead up to level 10, which was very likely, and Ballisitx feel like it, they could even judge people. I really think that with the amount of aggression they have, with the lack of cleanse that Malphite, actually he does have the cleanse at level 7, but still, I think they could try to maybe snowball even harder by just making aggressive move after aggressive move. This judgment could maybe help in that regard. Let's see which route they're going to go for. Tyrael's holding up for it up to this point.
It kind of falls into that territory of Sendragosa for Arthas, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly,
look,
exactly.
If it's a highly situational thing, but if you find that situation, I mean, this could be it, right? You get the boss, you push in the bottom lane, and you snowball this boss into an early keep. And
you get staggered deaths, you get one after the other. Exactly.
This is it. I mean, they're holding it for now, and I think that if the opportunity is there, he'll snap lock it and go in.
Nah, not this time.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to judge people, you know, you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, so Tyrael's not going to do it this time. Maybe next time. But, I mean, it was basically a situational thing. If BlossoM had decided to contest the boss, they wouldn't really know. Like, do they go with Sanctification? Should we play aggressively now or not? It was more of a mind game thing to do. But I totally agree with this decision, of course, as well. Double protection, Divine Shield, Sanctification, really safe overall. They're just going to get that bottom for it. They're probably not going to overextend it too much. So Ballisitx falling back into that safe, calm, and collected attitude of just, you know, administering the game. Just trying to get ahead further and further.
See how the Malthael pick plays out. You can see Hooligan backing off this. No need to risk it. Level 10 picked up by BlossoM, but we do see Tormented Souls last strikes can be negated by the bunker, which is on a 40-second cooldown, and not getting those kills, you know, it feels bad when you don't get them. So I think, you know, it makes sense. But then Tranquility on the other side, it's kind of the counter, right? So if you can kind of win one over the other, Tormented Souls, I think, is naturally going to be considered winning on that trade because you can find other ways to follow up. But if you can neutralize that on either end, yeah, they just kind of cancel each other out.
Yeah, I mean, Tormented Souls is actually a very interesting one, as you brought up. I wonder how much value we're going to see from that Heroic ability. Maybe it's also good against the Cocoon, just in case Tychus is the one who lands in it. The AoE circle around Malthael is going to make sure to shred that Cocoon a little bit faster. But as you also said, Jay, how these Tranquility is a nice counter to it. It's like a soft sound barrier, if you will. It doesn't give much burst protection, but it heals up the lost health gradually.
It has to heal up everybody, and the Heroic on the side of Malthael heals up one person, but it does some damage. We'll see how it plays out. Level 13, not quite here, so if Ballisitx defends this, I'd be a bit surprised. I think this is one of those ones that you give up. The next Temple phase is a double Temple phase. You just kind of casually play around that. And at this point in the game, if you're Ballisitx, you can trade out for the rest of the game. You have 3 forts standing. You've already taken out the entire
top lane, too.
Yeah.
There's a mercenary camp, a knight camp already marching through, and they're definitely going to have to send one person to deal with it, ideally Blaze here, BlossoM that is. So Wiz is already on the move here, already trying to keep that in check, but Ballisitx with that level 13, they know exactly what they're trying to do. They could even go for an aggressive steal. The Holy Ground is available as well, just in case BlossoM is trying to defend it.
Yes, it's 13 talent to your advantage, but this might be one of those rare situations where this is the best time for Ballisitx to take a fight because they're not going to have a lot of opportunities from here on out. Ballisitx will make sure of that. The next Temple phase active here in about 30 seconds, and again, all Ballisitx has to do at this point, Kendrick, is just trade out, and they will naturally win the game just based on temples alone. Yeah,
Ballisitx just gonna try to, you know, dance around it a little bit, ring around the Rosie. They're just trying to just kite BlossoM around all the time. The other Night Camp that they just stole away from their opponents is causing so much distraction as well. Junkrat actually spending way longer than he should be when it comes to dealing with the Knights, and even that Mercenary Camp is not a guaranteed one. Look at Hooligan, always trying to make sure, you know what guys, I have a sword called Eldruin and I can steal that away from you.
Indeed he can. Every second that they use, you can see Hooligan shielding those Siege Giants. It buys time. And every second that they bought allowed for an extra shot or two on those temples. We see BlossoM moving to the bottom. They're going to come down and they're going to take a few of those, but not before Ballisitx took a few shots out of that. Greymane has been here the whole time as SC holding onto this temple. And this is just a way for Ballisitx to gain every ounce of control. Every second that they get just is so impactful, so momentous.
Absolutely, and what's so impressive as well by Ballisitx and the way how they rotate around the map is that they're never getting caught isolatedly. There's no way that Gondor on that Nubrak can actually trap someone in the cocoon, wait until it expires, and then they blow that target up together, because there's always that saving grace nearby. They're not really spreading out too far from one another. So Ballisitx, not just in the way of how they prioritize targets and how patiently they play, also the way they form the rotations is so cool to see.
Speaking of rotations, BlossoM, they have to be aggressive in their rotations, because if they give up 16 for Ballisitx, they'll continue to just play around the temples. Good thing for BlossoM, the next temple phase is going to be a single temple phase. That's going to be their best chance. We can also see at the bottom left, the boss 18 seconds away. If you're Ballisitx, you can give up things like that. You don't have to do much. As long as Ballisitx plays around the talent tier advantage, there's just almost nothing that they have to do. The onus of winning this is on BlossoM, and it requires so many steps. Ballisitx, they can just kind of keep it cool for a while. Play 16. Rome is fine. They're fine here.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point. The boss is actually a point of contention that I want to see Ballisitx start now. With the Holy Ground and its Sanctification, the double protection actually, if Uther falls on top of that as well, is so huge that BlossoM, although they need to make a move, although they need to pounce on their opponents, they're not going to feel comfortable doing so in this case.
I actually think that BlossoM needs to force it. I don't know if now, of course, obviously 16 is fastly approaching, but if they do want to force something, they should be able to get 16. Again, single temple phase, he's literally chilling.
He's a stealthy ninja. He's currently teleporting back.
Can you blame him? It's like, look, the rest of you guys kind of split out. Like, you guys left the party a while ago. I lost my ride home. Guys?
There we go. Now 16 is here, and although BlossoM was trying to maybe make something happen, they just weren't brave enough. They didn't have the confidence. And I think this might be their last ticket to win City. If they let those two temples go through and maybe even have to surrender the boss, it might be lights out for them.
Look at that sick hero damage here. 8,800 hero damage by Tychus.
Feels Sky Temple, man.
It feels Sky Temple, but I'm telling you, this is why I fell in love with Ballisitx a year and a half ago, because their strategy was calculated. This is why they are so strong on Sky Temple, and they have done so much. But this is the opportunity for BlossoM. They've gotten 16. It is a single temple phase. Again, if you're Ballisitx, you do not have to take a fight, Kendrick. You can literally take half of this temple, walk away, and consider it a victory.
And go for the other one. Toplin once again getting pressured. Those Night Camps are so well timed. SC is in trouble though. Gets the shields, gets the heals. Here comes the Riptire.
The Riptire's out. John Hall dodges it, and he's got his Tormented Souls out. The Sanctification, or excuse me, the Divine Shield is there, but the big stun coming back by Wiz, and all of a sudden Tychus is down, and we have Genji going into the backside, shredding the backside of Ballisitx, and all of a sudden BlossoM has turned this game around, Kendrick.
Yeah, they definitely turned that team fight around. They got a kill here on the Tychus, who was once again a little bit too far away from the saving tools by Tyrael and by Uther. The Odin, of course, locks you in place for a little while, but as you said, they can actually afford to give up this temple. The top lane getting damaged more and more. It gets another tower. Every structure at this point matters for BlossoM.
I will say, Ballisitx easily could have walked away from that team fight and still had such a major advantage. Now, yes, they got a little bit of structure advantage on the top. They gave up the remaining part of that temple and still have fort standing. But BlossoM can easily make a play towards a boss or something along those lines. Instead, they're waiting it out, seeing if they can find somebody in rotation. And Hooligan says, nah, I see you.
Hooligan knows exactly how to play that. He's not blindly walking in that brush. He's checking it very carefully with that smite as well. And BlossoM, on the other hand, you may have expected them to maybe go all in on that boss, right? Because they just killed Tychus. There were still 30 seconds on the clock. But instead, they tried to actually catch someone off guard, maybe, because they realized if we start this boss now, all it takes is one Q from Hooligan, and that could actually turn things around against us. So they were trying to go for more kills, didn't get them, unfortunately.
Yeah, you know, they're trying to go for more kills, but I think they have to consider the fact that now we're looking at double temple phase, top-bottom. The bottom is generally going to be the most favored because it has the boss. And you can see Hooligan actually going in there trying to steal that, but he's going to be rooted in there. He's stunned for the moment, Kendrick.
Yeah, a little bit too early there. The timing wasn't correct here. In the meantime, we see a Nubrak Gondor dropping very low, but the bunker dance is real. The Riptire zoning and splitting the team of Ballisitx, and here comes a big sanctification from Hooligan. Can he stay sort of alive? Can he stay and keep Magi alive? That is the question. Here goes the first kill. Raymond is tearing it up.
He's tearing it up, and you can see Nasang is split way far out to the right. SC is going to get the kill there. 2 members down on the side of BlossoM, and now with 2 members down, The Temple's available soon and the boss up. This is Ballisitx time to make a major power play, start their, I guess, final approach here to victory as they put themselves firmly ahead. And this is desperation. BlossoM might try and find a way to contest this, but I just don't see it happen.
This is close to a KO already. BlossoM is desperate. They're trying to make it work somehow. Gondar is still here. He's not brave enough to go in, though. Instead, he turns around, almost gets caught there as well. Concussion Mine keeps Hooligan at bay up to this point. Gondar taking those mighty Worgen hits as well. So much health is missing on both Anub'arak and the Genji. And now this is the picture-perfect scenario for Ballisitx. How do you want to win this game? Do we go with the boss and maybe seal the deal there? Do we take a chunk of bot? Do we go for a little bit of top temple? At this point, it's so hard for Ballisitx to actually not win this.
If there was a
like a buffet, you know?
If there was a probability factor, it would probably be somewhere in like 95%, right? You'd have to make a major slip up because right now with these temples active, the boss still being defended, you're looking at double keep play, and you still have a fort standing. At that point, you literally are. It's a free victory at this point.
Yeah.
BlossoM's opportunities.
20s there, icing on the cake.
It's almost BlossoM has a chance, but it is minuscule.
Yeah, they need to have picture-perfect team fighting at this point. They need to defend the core, which is not an easy thing to do. They need to regroup as fast as they can. Dudu is already in a little bit of trouble here, tries to keep all the attackers at bay.
They're taking core damage.
Yeah, they're taking core damage.
They're split.
It's also the worst possible location there as well. It's so far spread out. It's so hard for BlossoM to really do this. 24%. Here comes a last effort for Zhangha trying to really seal the deal. But two BlossoM heroes against them. Gondar and Wiz. Greymane on the core. 6%. Don't be a tease, SCST. He waits for SDE like a patient dog he would for his master. Well played, Ballisitx, taking the game 2-1.
Very rarely do you like to call a game over sometimes in Heroes because there are so many comebacks and it leads to a 6.5 out of 10. But I honestly believe that what we just saw from there, outside of the team fight that I don't feel Ballisitx needed to take, but what we saw there in terms of an opening strategy through the first 6-7 minutes of the game that opened up that map so heavily is exactly Ballisitx MO, and it's one of the reasons why I think that Dread and I, we looked at them as, in terms of favorites, they have some of these macro strategies that are just kind of unrivaled in a lot of the global scene of Heroes.
Yeah, the only thing hinging on, not having confidence, for me at least, right, into Ballisitx is always going to be that hero pool. And I'm still, it's still sadly a big question mark for me here in day number 2. But we have gotten, couple of signs or symptoms, if you will, with, again, the game number 1 on Dragon Chai here being displayed against Ballisitx. And then other than that, they are doing what they do best, really. They are a team that we know to be able to get those kind of early leads, especially on maps like Sky. Historically, their macro and rotations, the pressure out is just insane. And they displayed it well there against BlossoM. I agree with you. That one fight was like, do you have to? At the same time, you go, you're so far ahead, as long as you don't full wipe, like you should be good. So well done, I feel like, there from Ballisitx, and it makes it hard to see as their turning point in the next game for BlossoM.
I think this was one of those games where, as a viewer, you're watching this and you're watching Ballisitx absolutely dismantle BlossoM. You're like, you know what? I'm gonna call a bunch of friends here. We're joined up for a team league and we're gonna do the exact same. It's so easy, right? But it isn't. The way they just managed to stay together all the time, not getting caught, the way they kept the backline safe, once again, the way they just patiently took mercenary camps at the right moment, at the right time, was just so admirable. And I think they really deserve this victory. Picture perfect masterclass on SkyTel.
It's one of those games you just kind of want to watch. You want to kind of teach everybody. On paper, it looks very simple, but the timing of everything that they do, it is what really makes it stand apart. So that's a game that's in the books. We'll move forward, obviously, but Ballisitx, after that first hiccup in game number 1, seems to be picking up some steam as they've gone back to their comfort picks in the draft, and you got to wonder, will those continue to be there, Dread?
We're going to have to find out. I feel like the first place we're going to see if it's, it's pressured off of those comfortable heroes for SC is going to be where we start with the Battleground. So we're going to find out where we're going for game number 4 first, and then we'll figure out, if BlossoM has the ability to get that pressure out. Game 4 is moving over to Battlefield of Eternity. I hate to break it to people at home, but that is pretty much good for almost every SC hero. So when it comes to will there be enough to threaten it out, Genji, Greymane, Vala, and Hanzo, all phenomenal on this map. So I doubt it, is what I'm saying.
But here's the thing. I think it actually hinges on Uther.
I disagree, but it's very close. I think it hinges on Tyrael. A lot on Tyrael. I guess you're probably right, actually, now that I think about it. Uther's more demanding on that sense, but I do think the lack of Tyrael and the presence of Tyrael and where that's going in the draft on BlossoM is enabling a lot of this. SC is not getting pressured. I know that seems weird to go, hey, the warrior or, you know, the support is the reason that SC is not getting pressured out, but it's the synergies and the demand that those off picks have with they need those other heroes. And if you take those away and put more focus into that, I think it will be, you know, a lot more crippling there. And I feel like that's why when we looked at this first series today, Tyrael was not let through the draft phase, right, whatsoever in the first bans. And I think that this is a large reason for it, and we're seeing, you know, Ballisitx put that on display. Also, I want to highlight the bunker and tranquility play of the last game, though, on the side of BlossoM. It was pretty clever, and it was really impressive to see the, you know, armor plus that healing coming out. It was very difficult to get those kills.
I'm actually a little surprised that we didn't see the map choice on BlossoM here, because I think Cursed Hollow would have been a map for them to really fit into their playstyle. It could have also allowed heroes like Illidan, as you hinged to earlier. It would have definitely been a map for Wiz to maybe shine on. And Battlefield of Eternity giving that choice over to Ballisitx and actually leaving the reins into the SCSC. Very surprising. We see Tyrael.
I think this means so much for BlossoM if they ban this out. That being said, I want to just say, I don't think this means the draft's over by any means.
But do you first pick Uther?
You do not first pick the Uther.
But then you give up the Uther and whatever SC is going to play behind that.
You might. Okay.
That's what I'm scared of. It's strictly because it's SC's hero relies on being enabled. You can 100% guarantee money in the bank. Uther's coming out here, but with what?
To be honest, with the Greymane.
Just kidding.
There we go.
Okay, so then the Tracer being brought out for Ballisitx.
Is this real?
Yeah.
Are the team's names correct?
But it is Battlefield of Eternity, right? So we have to keep in mind that this is one of those moments where the shift within that could be because the accenting of the mouth tracer is so much better on the map itself. It's not just relying on the, you know, objective strength of the duo. It does, again, you know, pulse bomb prepping is just left and right on Battlefield of Eternity.
I feel like I need to put my headset down and walk away for a few.
Also, the Tyrael ban is part of the reason we see that being picked up as well, I would argue, on the side of Ballisitx. They are now being reactionary, sticking to the objective strength that we see, because now they know that they are not going for the high invulnerability, flexing it out with the Tracer Malfurion. I love this evolution.
The thing is, couldn't they have used the Tyrael themselves if they maybe expected a Tracer Malf? Because the thing is...
Uther Garrosh.
It's so hard to really, like... Almost. He almost did it.
Uther and Nubarak. So we still have the Uther and the Genji pairing with the Dragon Blade opportunities to get the threat to the backline. And Nubarak provides a lot of kill potential within the early game with the double hard crowd control, pretty easy initiation, diving out. I mean, just left and right. The early game is very much there. It's not like, you know, Ballisitx is anything to laugh at. We do see the Malthael ban, indicating a Garrosh / Blaze. An interest in those. BlossoM.
Yeah. So about that Garrosh.
About that Garrosh, but I would have actually loved to see maybe a Greymane ban. Maybe even a Tychus ban, to be honest, because those heroes, they could come in here, and although Tychus is not really the best one on BoE in general, those two hard-hitting heroes, like it's going to be a Greymane most likely now for Ballisitx, and then they're going to follow it up with the Tracer, and Nubarak is going to suffer the exact same fate like in the last game. He's getting chunked down to pieces by all of those hard-hitting auto attacks. I'm not really sure if I like the approach of BlossoM here. Sorry to break the enthusiasm here, but I think this could go wrong.
You know, I would say just purely based on the fact that this is BlossoM obviously playing reactionary and going so far out of the comfort zone, and it's, I mean, it's against Ballisitx. I agree with you, but this is one of those moments. This is potentially your last game, right? Yeah. To be able to win this. So if you're ever going to make that adjustment, I feel like this is the time to make that happen. Here comes out the Blaze from Ballisitx, paired with the Greymane as well. Going to have that solid race between all those heroes on their side. Solid disengage as well to deal with the Dragon Blade all in.
Where does this leave Wiz? Do we kick it old school with a little bit of Sonya action?
You're going to frontline? Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I got distracted for a moment there. Go with a Sonya? Maybe. It definitely has to be somebody who can deal with the Tracer. Normally I'd be like, oh, maybe an Arthas in this situation, but no, you don't want to have that kind of, you know, dodge ability on the Howling Blast and then just watch Arthas go, like, I'm just trying to freeze her, but I can't touch her. Like, hey. And so I do think that Sonya could make up for that a little bit better, help with the race. But I can't help but feel like in the back of my mind I'm going, but it doesn't have enough oomph, and I feel like there might be something else.
How crazy are they willing to get? How desperate are they really? Because in the craziest of worlds, I could even see an Artanis making it in. I can make a Samuro, actually, very true. A Thrall is a hero that we totally forgot about as well. The Crash Lightning hitting pretty hard if it gets all the way through. Didn't really work out so well, though, in the past.
A double reset composition into a Blaze in itself is already intimidating. Malfurion can go with the Tranquility, can go with the Twilight Dream. Both are pretty good counter momentum, only because the pairing with the armor situation that Blaze is able to provide. I don't know if it's enough to really need to go in any other heavy direction when it comes to their frontliner, as long as it kind of holds its own pretty... I mean, even if it's just that ETC.
ETC, Muradin, both still available.
ETC, Muradin, I think, are probably going to be our most likely culprits here. Anything outside of that would... Diablo would be really out there, yeah. But you don't really need much more with this composition, right? You've got Tracer, you've got Grayman, you know exactly what you're getting from that. Blaze is that secondary backup option for whatever warrior you throw in here, unless they just really come out of left field with something.
It's going to be the ETC here for Hooligan. One of the best to deal with the BOE stuns. It's really good in all the melees on the side of BlossoM and the frontline control or frontliners that they have. Overall, knowing that this is, you know, kind of match point, guys, and we have seen the drafts. Does anybody feel any differently here from our original votes of the Ballisitx, and Ballisitx?
I'm feeling even worse now for BlossoM. I think Thrall takes too long to really get rolling.
Okay.
Could happen on this game. I think Anub'arak as the solo tank is going to struggle so much when it comes to making those plays, and we saw how good Ballisitx was when it comes to just kiting the enemy team a little bit, waiting until it's right to fight, and they never got caught against Anub'arak in the last game. I don't think they're going to get caught on BOE, which is a smaller map even. No room for mistake here. I think Ballisitx got this.
The whole thing about the Malfurion pick is Malfurion just needs to be a support. And it just needs, you don't need to be the big playmaker, because a lot of what... Don't feed, because a lot of what's going to happen is the Anub'arak dive, the Thrall's going to come in behind it, Genji's going to come in behind it. If you just casually throw a root down right there, get the heal, I think that's all that you need.
And post 13, that's going to get even harder. Here we are. Potentially game point between Ballisitx and BlossoM on Battlefield of Eternity. Boys, take it away.
With pleasure, Dread. We're going to find out whether BlossoM drops down to the lower bracket for the first time or whether they can tie out the series once again. Ballisitx, though, looked strong on Sky Temple. Can they do it again? It is Wiz on that Thrall. We're going to pay special attention onto how well he's going to be able to stack it up on that Crash Lightning, but Li Ming as well, actually, in the fray here. So a lot of pokey-poke, a lot of long-distance siege damage to Taehoe. BlossoM putting all their eggs in one basket, trying to find a target, pick it apart, get a reset, double reset actually with Genji and Li Ming, and try to snowball team fights from there.
Yeah, if it works beautifully. I think that they have a little bit more well-rounded approach here, and I like that a lot more. The Uther, I think, obviously with the counter towards Tracer Pulse Bombs is key, but there's so much else that could come out between the Blaze, ETC, Greymane that you have to be very diplomatic with your approach on who's getting those heals, when they're getting those heals, and how everybody's able to keep themselves alive. You have the mobility between Li Ming and Genji to keep them alive, but also finding the opportunities to be aggressive.
And speaking of aggressiveness and how to go in and deliver the damage, we see Greymane now falling back from that cocktail adventure on Sky Temple and instead going to what is known to work really well in the current meta. Viciousness at level 1, auto attack focus here. I like that choice, especially if you think about it. Tracer and Greymane focusing on the same target ideally, whether it's an Anub'arak or a Genji or a Thrall, they're all going to melt very quickly.
Well, so far, Ballisitx again has come out, Kendrick, with theory in mind, but that's going to be met by Gondar and team going in. He gets the stun, gets the lockdown. There's that dive potential. There's a reset. Hooligan, there's another reset. You see Genji diving on in, just casually cleaning up. BlossoM.
Yeah, and that was really well played, actually. That's exactly, of course, those moments that they're looking for. Snowball those team fights, reset after reset, but I'm a little bit flabbergasted by how the lanes are currently split out. I mean, normally you would expect Thrall to be in the foreman, right? Otherwise he can't stack up, but guess what? With that double reset, you have way more killing potential in the early game, and Thrall is probably going to be like Wiz knows that the moment the Immortals are being deployed, the moment teams are stacking up naturally to get the map objective, he's going to get those stacks anyways.
I will say that As somebody who has played a lot of Crash Lightning on Thrall, it does feel bad when you're in the solo lane, man. It's like,
it feels
guys,
bad, right?
I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
want to stack. You let me in the 4-man. Come on now.
But if your team is tearing it up in the meantime, you're not going to be too salty
it's like,
about
okay, it's good now, but let's see if it works. But as you said, this battleground obviously does favor Crash Lightning, especially during the objective phase. You can kind of make up for lost time at that point.
Definitely true. And Tracer also was doing the solo shenanigans in the top lane to deal with that Thrall. Very interesting that it was actually Blaze who stuck in that 4-man. And let's see how those team fights are now going to unfold. Obviously, those 2 kills were very nice, but obviously as well, it's not too big of a lead that BlossoM was able to establish themselves. And here we see this probably superior racing potential by Ballisitx with those strong hitting auto attackers like Greymane, like the Tracer. So BlossoM, they realized they're going to have to defend first, maybe get a kill or 2, and then put some attention on the Red Immortal themselves.
Oh, SC barely gets out of there alive. Genji, he's out as well, but Jongha ate the big arcane orb from Modern that was thrown in there, and it just so happened to get that max splash damage over onto SC there on Tracer, and that almost cost them.
And look at how well BlossoM is posturing up there, JL, as well in that vision obscured area. They basically make sure that nobody is going to be able to approach their Immortal unharmed here. ETC trying to check it out here. Stuns onto Gondar. He takes a lot of damage, but escapes barely.
Oh, are you kidding me? And Nasang, he's trying to make it out. He might be turning into Ghost Uther here. He does end up following. That's going to be the first kill of the game here for Ballisitx. They're also going to kick off the halftime show. They're trying to zone out. You can see Hooligan trying to anticipate, seeing if Li Ming might blink one way, unable to do so, as dipped on out the other.
And Uther's Spirit was crying out in help, stay here, I can heal you, but everybody was already around the corner, too far away to get any trade value, and that is just going to be an easy walk in the park for Ballisitx now to finish off the Blue Immortal. Without the help of Uther, without the main support, there's only so much they can do. Now, this is a pretty hefty first Immortal, 75% roughly on those shields. Let's see how much value they can get from it.
Yeah, you know, they don't have terrible defense. I mean, Li Ming sounds good, but as long as there's minions and everything kind of at the forefront, and you can eat some of those shots, you can take away a lot of that damage. There's a little bit of stun action coming in here, getting the lockdown, but the Immortal has joined. The Immortal sends Gondar flying. The Pulse Bomb not enough to confirm the kill yet. As we get later in the game, it will be, and you can see Jongha coming in with the stun. Follow up with the Immortal stun there, getting the MVP status, getting the kill.
Yeah, the pincer move from 2 sides at the same time came Blaze and ETC trying, and speaking of coming from a different side, Hooligan, the perfect cleanse though. Nasang is making all the support players out there learn a lesson or two on how to prevent any power slide value.
Yeah, you can hear that dong sound of the cleanse coming in. I wonder, like, did Gondar get his burrow charge off before, or can he be thinking his Uther player there is the song getting the clutch one there, but now Ballisitx, see if they can replicate.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh
no.
Dudu just escaping with, I don't know how much HP that is left, but that was so clutch. The CC chain almost landing perfectly there, only in the matter of a couple of seconds was he able to save his ninja bud out there.
Well, Ballisitx, they've got themselves about a little over a level lead here. Gotten quite a bit of control. There's another cleanse there, but the roots are going to lock him down the minute that expires. That's going to be another takedown here.
Yeah.
Genji trying to get the deflect. The slow going to be there onto Nasang. The power slide over, and Uther in all sorts of trouble. Does manage to live, and they get the counter kill onto ETC here.
What? Wait a minute. Tracer was going in so deep. SCSC calculated risk there, finishing it off with the parting gift. But I was going to say, ETC, you know, Hooligan playing a little bit like a vacuum cleaner. Each power slide is going to, you know, get those guys in, collecting them all. And this time he was a little bit too overzealous, but doesn't really matter. They still maintain a solid 1-level lead. I think they're going to be cool with that.
He brings the Megadeth. Yeah. You know, the trade out there on kills there definitely favors BlossoM, and right now I'm a bit surprised. Obviously they want to make sure and get their Shaman camp, they want to get that bottom lane soaked, but they're actually missing out on a little bit in the top lane. I'm surprised that they're willing to give that up. They need every scant inch of experience that they can right now just to try and catch up in terms of experience, because 10 is here, the Immortal's spawning here in just a few seconds.
All right, they're dealing with this blue Fallen Shaman Camp very, very quickly, and that is oftentimes the difference between Korean and Chinese teams, whereas in China we would have probably seen a full 5-man engage, fist-to-fist, toe-to-toe. Here Ballisitx realize, you know what, we're just going to let him have it. We do have level 10 true, but do we want to take those unnecessary risks? We don't think so. We're just going to clear that Shaman Camp in the matter of a second or two.
Sitting here looking at interrupts. Got potentially Sundering. Wave of Force and Uther stun, but we still got our Mosh Pit. We'll see if that comes into play here, whether they can get some value out of that.
Yeah.
Hooligan waiting in the bush. Wiz, he's going to get power slid upon. SDE, there's the Mosh Pit, instantly gets interrupted, but Wiz getting the heal, getting some self-sustain, and level 10 picked up. That's a big turnaround here for BlossoM.
That's a big cooldown now to be used just like that by Hooligan. He probably didn't expect Thrall to be this close to his teammates that could save them. The Wave of Force wasn't even locked in yet because Gen 10 had just arrived. And now we have, of course, the infamous rivalry between Li Ming and ETC, right? The Wave of Force, who's going to pull the trigger first, oftentimes waiting specifically for that Mosh Pit to go down once again. Look at Blaze, though, blocking so much of that damage.
Oh, the Divine Shield allowing him, despite the silence coming in. Dudu is able to get the kill there, and another clutch play here by Nasang, who is standing out, a god amongst men right now, as he is doing everything to empower his team. And that Divine Shield there just turned that. Not only that, but they had the Cocoon onto Blaze, which is kind of the new, hey, let's take away your version of, you know, a Divine Shield, a Sanctification in that bunker, so take that off the table. Good team coordination by BlossoM.
And we're going to have to tip my fedora to the two players that I criticized a little bit. It was Nasang, and it was also Gondar on that Anub'arak, but the Cocoon was so good, preventing Blaze from actually landing the bunker in time, preventing him from using those body blocks to keep and intercepting all those plays. But here we see the bunker dance going in. Hooligan is safe for now. No double reset.
No double reset. Gondar lucky to be alive as he tucks tail and run. But right now, with only 1,100 health left on this Immortal, I don't know if BlossoM's going to be able to defend much longer. They're going to try and take any bit of shield they can off of theirs. Give up this Immortal.
Yeah, it's actually still admirable to see that Ballisitx was able to clutch it out. Although this Immortal won't be as powerful as the previous one, it is still so good to see that all their long-distance poke from Blaze, most importantly Zhongha there, really on point with the oil spill, that they were still able to get it, right?
Still able to get it. You know, the whole thing is the Thrall factor is still mounting. And when we look at
he's
the
still
way
baby Thrall.
When we see this continue to evolve, though, that's where like some of the poke potential is going to come in. You know, they're going to sit here, potentially try and take a fight behind the Immortal pre-13. But as long as they threaten the fight, it's allowing them to get the shield down on the Immortal. They got to be a little bit careful. Zhongha using that run, and he's going in.
He's going in. The Cocoon is still good. The Sunder goes in as well, but Thrall in the meantime exposing himself there as well. The double kill by Genji. He's leaving no one left alive. No victims taken.
Magi is going to be going down as well. Blaze on the backside. He's trying to get the trade out onto Wiz there, onto Thrall, but every second he buys allows the Immortal to push a little bit further. That is all 5 members down on the side of Ballisitx. Immortal will be cleaned up here, but not before taking that entire keep wall. But BlossoM, post level 10, Kendrick, they are coming to fight.
Yeah, all it takes is one death, one moment of unawareness for Ballisitx, and BlossoM is going to skyrocket themselves ahead in those team fights. They actually caught up in experience. They're leading the table now as well. And we talked about, you know, Thrall still being baby little green Jesus, you know. He's getting more and more stacks. He's going to get more and more value in those longer drawn-out battles. And that's the cool thing about Thrall as well. You can poke, but you can also do really well when it comes to blowing people apart with that Sundering.
It's worked out well as of late, and you can see BlossoM not willing to commit too much here as Li Ming was split off. Wasn't showing just yet, but Li Ming obviously not there. That's not a team fight you want to take. And you can see 16 stacks. Once you get that to 20, if you're in the minion waves, it automatically will jump to another hero. But again, 16 stacks, nothing to scoff at. We'll continue to keep an eye on that. Damage numbers, Blaze kind of leading the charge here for Ballisitx, and they have not got the tracer value that we've seen in some of the other games.
And it really shows how well BlossoM was able to turn the aggression onto Ballisitx, which is something they weren't necessarily able to do in the last game. Like, Greymane and Tracer can shine as well because they're not the ones trying to engage. They're not the ones trying to blow people up. They're the ones trying to actually avoid dying because there is so much push potential, so much pressure on heroes like Li Ming and Genji.
Immortal spawning, Kendrick, 20 seconds away. The Shaman camp already being cleared out here by Ballisitx. They still have theirs if they fall back. I don't know if they have time to fall back, but depending on how this stands off, see it come into play. But again, BlossoM, they've had control over the last few fights, and all of a sudden, Nubarak, however, is met in the bush there by Ballisitx.
Was that a cleanse? I think that was...
It sounded like it.
Yeah, I think that was the cleanse coming in from Nasang there as well. So BlossoM may not have that important cooldown at the ready. In the meantime, the Fallen Shaman camp for Ballisitx is still available, so they could have maybe gone for that if they hadn't focused on Gondar too much. Now they're the ones defending the right Immortal, and this is the moment that Wiz wants. This is the moment where he really can spread those chain lightnings over and over again. There we go. They're starting to hit really hard. Once we get to the 20 stacks, as J-House said, the lightnings are going to bounce from hero to hero, even if there are neutral targets, PvE targets in between.
SC blinks right away from that Li Ming combo. We can see on the mini-map that Greymane has split off. That's two trains collide as Blaze and Nubarak met head-to-head like two rams going up. The Pulse Bomb misses. That is a big cooldown. It will take a while to revamp as we see Dudu going in, trying to force some action.
Yeah, and immediately the call was made by Ballisitx. We do not want to pursue the aggression here. We blazed away the bunker, basically. We're not going to have it for another 30, 40 seconds. So they retreated. They removed themselves from the battlefield only to deal significant amounts of damage onto the Blue Immortal thanks to their great racing potential.
Big stuns coming in. You can see the cocoon onto Tracer. Zhang Ha is trying to get out of there, but it's all for naught. Twilight Dream was met by Divine Shield as Genji getting the reset. He manages to survive miraculously. What's going to go down, all it took was that reset to allow him to survive and get that extra swift strike out.
Yeah, and that was so huge. The Divine Shield perfectly timed the Twilight Dream, completely whiffed. Otherwise, that could have maybe been the end of Genji. But the way BlossoM is executing the team fights, the way they're coordinating their cooldowns as well, it is just a pleasure, a bliss to behold. And all of a sudden, look at that 16. It is so yummy, so nearby. And let's see if BlossoM can finally turn the tides here. 50% shield Immortal, but still so many structures left for Ballisitx to fall back on.
A lot to fall back on, but the momentum post-level 10 has definitely been in favor of BlossoM. Modern at Hearth back, he's full on mana. If the reset potential comes in, you know he's going to pop off. We'll see as the Immortals falling down just a little bit. Wiz continuing to stack. Don't forget. Now, I'm sure he's got to be sitting at 20, and now this is much easier for him to stack in these lanes, and you do not want to continue to give those up for free and for nothing, basically, because this fort is gone.
And for all the young shamans out there who want to master the ways of Crash Lightning, now you can basically just click on a structure, and always the chain lightnings are going to find their ways onto the nearest hero, so you don't even have to expose yourself as much anymore. This is really the golden age of Thrall, if you will. He's going to be able to deal so much damage from afar. The Immortal still at 30% health. Are they going to be able to deal some pressure on the keep?
They get the Nature's Cure there onto SDE, and now they'll push in just a little bit further. You can see the deflect there used. Genji is going to be there. Keep will stand here, Kendrick. 2-level lead, but BlossoM, they're not willing to basically heavy commit to push down this. A little bit too high risk for them at this point, but they're going to stick around in the area. Maybe look for a kill otherwise.
But if you look at it, J-Hell, the 16 talents for BlossoM, they were so huge, so many power spikes available. The Epicenter allowing Nubarak to have so much more crowd control available. Thunderstorm for Thrall, empowering those Chain Lightnings even more if you stack it up and manage to survive and not cast Chain Lightning on the same target again. So I'm really starting to get a little bit worried for Ballisitx. They're actually getting pushed into their own base all the time. BlossoM is not allowing them to leave.
And this is the thing. I actually wondered why they backed off. They have Li Ming, they have Thrall, and they have Genji. I mean, there's so much free poke potential, and you basically handcuff the enemy team here. They can't go to the top lane to soak 16. So the fact that they actually left a little bit allowed for 16 to get here a little bit more timely for Ballisitx, but Keep still stands. BlossoM, however, definitely making a statement here. And you look at the lanes, Kendrick. The top lane from that earlier Immortal was opened up. It opened up that top keep, and now we see the bottom keep opened up. As we get later into the game, these are potential win conditions that are not going to be popping up. If you can get another team fight and get a full team wipe to maybe move on past through that keep into the core.
Absolutely. And Ballisitx, they realize exactly how much of a threat this naked bottom lane could be, so they're trying to de-push it, to shove it as much as they can. Now, the Fallen Shaman camp is actually doing its shady work in the top lane as well. Once again, if you take a look at that hero, those hero damage numbers, look at how efficiently Tracer and Greymane were shut down in this game, because they are the ones who are feeling the pressure. They're not the ones who are applying the pressure. Ballisitx in trouble.
Definitely in trouble. That camp will be pushing in the top lane, will warrant a response at some point. As that fort goes down, it will give another bit of experience. Li Ming with the mirror ball, getting a lot of poke from range. You can see Zhang Ha trying to at least separate them out just a little bit. We saw the Thrall stacks was sitting at 29 going into this fight. That poke potential here is still a threat as well.
Yeah, Gondor actually using a preemptive burrow charge here. He was expecting that somebody could have hidden in that rush. Unfortunately, that was not the case. And Ballisitx, fortunately for BlossoM, actually didn't have vision on it either, so maybe they could have used that moment in time to collapse on a Nubrek. But for now, we see the poking game, and guess who's good at that like hardly any other hero in the game? That is Li Ming and Thrall. They're going to be the poke masters here. I like how Ballisitx is trying to spread them out a little bit more, so the chain lightnings are going to whiff a little bit, but they need to make something happen right now.
This poke is insane from BlossoM. Li Ming at max range, just casually throwing it out. SC looking for an opportunity, unable to find it. He blinks out, but he actually ate about 50% of his health there, as we see Magi coming over for support. Zhang Ha going in. No follow-up there just yet.
Here goes a power slide by ETC. The Vine Shield is out. So is the bunker, though. Massive cooldown trade in favor of Ballisitx here. I'm not sure if BlossoM can continue this push, this assault any longer.
Nasong, oh, that wave of force right there might have saved Nasong's life, but you can see Hooligan coming on the backside. Remember, he does have Mosh Pit available. Wiz is going to go down, but Sundering's going to come out, but it's not going to do enough as we see the counter stun here by Gondar. Nasong caught on the wrong side of this team fight, and just like that, Ballisitx has taken control.
MVP in that fight to me was Blaze. So well played. He had all the cooldowns ready to apply the ult spill in the ignition on the Tracer who was caught in the cocoon. That was so crucial. They just cleaned it house. They cleaned it up, Ballisitx that is, and they are here on the warpath now trying to seal the deal potentially with a massive Immortal. And keep in mind, guys, these things scale heavily. 19 minutes into the game, that could potentially be lights out. The structures from BlossoM have already taken massive damage, and Greymane is not done. He finds a beetle in the woods.
I don't know if that's where you wanted to be if you were BlossoM, trying to buy time, and now all of a sudden you've staggered deaths.
Yeah.
And as you said,
that is the real deal.
The shield now will heavily be there. They should be able to identify that the shield, the health of their Immortal is falling rapidly. I think that not having the if they had the Anubarak here, they could use the Anubarak as a peel, get a little bit of poke in from Li Ming. The fact that Anubarak died, now they're not able to get any bit more of the shield off. It's going to be a tough defense now, Kendrick.
The good thing is that 25 seconds is most likely going to be enough for Nubrak to reappear because the Immortal takes a little while until it actually commits onto that push. ETC doesn't have stage dive. He needs to be with the team right now. If they take unnecessary damage on that Immortal because they can't defend it with ETC, then that would be a little bit of a saving grace for BlossoM potentially. Genji actually slowing down Hooligan's advance there as well. But how well can they defend? How much single target damage do they have to keep that mighty Immortal at bay?
All depends on Modern. He's actually missed a couple of his shots here. He really needs to focus a lot of his attention onto this, but it looks like they're going to dive past it. Gondar's going in, but he's eaten so much health. The Twilight Dream, but not before the healing comes in, and the big Sundering, Kendrick.
The big Sundering, so many stuns applied onto Ballisitx. The bunker is ready. The safety haven is there for Ballisitx. It's a one-for-one trade. The Immortal continues to pound on the structures of BlossoM, though.
It's pounding. You can see Zhang Ha, he's trying to survive in that oil. He's surviving as long as he can. SC, he's nearly going to fall. Wiz just has one more poke. 4 members go down. Li Ming has fallen. The Immortal still has to be taken care of as the shields have gone down. It's going to take some core health. If they had been able to get those kills a little bit quicker, they're still in position.
69.
Not having the Li Ming, Kendrick.
Yeah.
Is crucial here because they're losing a lot of core health, and it also denies them the potential to run to the other side of the map and potentially in this game. So they gave up a lot there. As 24% now lies onto that. Is BlossoM now desperate, realizing that 24% is not enough? The potential backdoors there. They need to at least trade out a keep here.
Yeah, and this is going to be so clutch right now. 24%. They made the hold, but can they turn around? Can they retaliate? 4 seconds until Greymane, 8 seconds until the Malfurion is back as well. The bunker is going to be such a crucial tool as well, but most importantly, the power slide ETC, maybe with a mosh pit there as well. Those are the tools that are really going to take some time away from the enemy team. I think BlossoM at this point is not all in. No, they realize, you know what, we're just going to trade keep for keep. We don't have to rush things. True, it's looking grim for us, but if we wipe here, it's going to be game over for us anyways.
They're actually in desperation mode. This is full desperation mode for BlossoM, because the bunker upgrade will give you that extra armor. You're also looking at a Greymane on the other side who has some of the best siege damage, especially late game. And desperation mode includes getting in these bushes, trying to find picks. They have to fight from here on out. I don't think they can afford to give up any more staggered positioning. They have to keep an eye on Ballisitx from here on out.
The problem is, as you said, Jayho, 24% on the core is nothing when there's a Greymane in the team, when there's a bunker that can actually tank the aggro from the core shots as well. This is now a guaranteed winning condition. If they even get just 1 or 2 kills, that could be a core call for Ballisitx. So I like what BlossoM is trying to do. They're keeping their opponents in their own half of the base so they don't have to worry about it. They can maybe sneak in a kill or two. So important and so cool to see how tense this match has become.
They see that the camp has been procced here. Gondar waiting in the wings, looking to find a position to dive in. They find SC. Nice cleanse there. The Sundering misses. That's a big moment. You can see the cleanse and the bolt was used by Thrall, and he's out. The pulse bomb missing, however, Kindred.
The bunker is here. The party is real. 4 people are dancing in it, and that could be Hooligan's MVP moment. The Divine Shielded Dragon Blade is trying to salvage this situation, but so many people of BlossoM have already gone to the grave, and now I think this is Ballisitx time to seal the deal, to take the series home 3-1. 3 members, excuse me, dead. Uther will come back with redemption, or is it uncool and actually didn't pay attention to it?
It's still game. It's still game. The minute they got that first kill, that 4-man mosh pit was insane. Woo! Modern, he's going to fall. It's almost impossible to kind of 1v1 a Tracer at this point. Ballisitx. Kendrick, we were looking at 29 total kills in this game. Almost made it 30 there. But 29 total kills here in this brawl that we had between Ballisitx and BlossoM. And I will say this, that given their recent past that they had in the earlier part of HGC Phase 1, things looked really good for Ballisitx, but BlossoM seems to be evolving as the year has gone on. Yes, they fell 3-1, but they definitely put up a fight.
Absolutely. It's definitely safe to say that BlossoM made their fans proud in this series. True, they weren't able to take it home, but by the same token, they faced one of the most powerful teams in the world. Ballisitx, such a tough mountain to climb, and BlossoM not going down out of this series without a fight. And you said it, Jayho, 29 kills in 1 game, that gets my China seal of approval.
China seal of approval. Speaking of China, here in the near future, we'll see them, but in the meantime, we'll continue.
BlossoM's actually going to get a rematch against SPT, if I'm not mistaken.
It'll be a fun one. It'll be a fun one. As we can see, congratulations there again with our double elimination tournament. It by no means that things are over here for BlossoM. As you said, they'll be going to the lower bracket to face off against one of our 2 remaining teams, I believe both from China. So, you know, it's something to look forward to, I think. And for BlossoM, I don't think we've seen the last of them as they move down. They have a bright future to move forward in that lower bracket, but also a surprising team down there is Tempest.
Yeah, Tempest is going to have to face the team that is known as The One, so we're going to have 2 China-Korea battles in the lower bracket as well, but it's cool to see that Ballisitx and KSU Black, they didn't disappoint their fans. They're moving on, taking a huge step onto the grand final, of course, which we're about to see tomorrow at the last day of the Eastern Clash. So, Jayho, who was the player that impressed you most from both teams, maybe consider? Who was your personal MVP?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to point. I mean, that big mosh pit at the end, I mean, sometimes all it takes is 1 play to really stand out. A 4-man mosh pit to help clinch the series is pretty good. But SDE, I think when they fell back, when Ballisitx fell back to their main just standard drafts, played a little bit, it's hard to pick on an individual for Ballisitx because a lot of it is their macro play. A lot of it is very team-oriented. Their synergy amongst that team is kind of where it stands in there. You know, we also saw kind of the play from the support side on BlossoM that just kind of really kind of came out in that last game. It saved a lot. There was a lot that happened there from the Sun. It just wasn't enough. But there were definitely counterplays, I think, on both teams here. But Ballisitx came out on top. And I think, again, team play is where it stands. And if they stay away from that double support with the Ariel, I think they're going to be okay.
And that's the cool thing about Ballisitx, after all. They don't really have that one star player. Maybe SCAC could fill that role, but they don't have the riches, you know. They don't have the dummies that are just single-handedly dominating games by themselves. Whenever they win Ballisitx, that is, it is a team effort. It is a combined team effort. Every member of it works so well. And we're going to find out what Ballisitx have to say about that victory. Dreadnought is already there for the interview.
Thank you very much, guys. I am here with SC himself after that victory over BlossoM. And already, you know, I got to ask here, SC, BlossoM, from a Western team's perspective, I feel like they really kind of outperformed, themselves here. I don't know if anybody caught that beforehand, but I'm here with SC, and my question is here, BlossoM, I feel like from a Western point of view, really outperformed what a lot of people kind of expected. I was just wondering if you guys were surprised with their performance here today.
우선 S 선수 승리를 축하드리고요. 블라썸 팀 같은 경우에는 그 웨스턴 그 커뮤니티가 생각하는 것보다 상당히 좋은 경기력을 보여줬는데요. 특별히 그들이 좋은 경기력을 보여줄 수 있었던 이유라던가 아니면 좋은 경기력을 보여준 선수가 있나요?
근데 블라썸은 저희가 한국에 있을 때부터 좀 잘한다고 생각했었고, 그리고 곤다르 선수가 좀 압박감이 있는 것 같아요. 그래서 언제든지 잠재력이 있는 팀이라고 생각하는데 이번에 좀 많이 잘한 것 같아요.
So actually, when we are in Korea, we expect BlossoM is going to show a very good performance, and the Gondar, the tanker of the BlossoM, he's one of the best tanker in Korea, and BlossoM is going to have a much potential to show better performance on the other event. Yeah.
And it's really awesome that they're able to kind of perform here at their first international tournament. Next question is, again, kind of from that Western perspective. The double support Volley composition on Dragonshire is one that is, it's just less common within our regions. Can you give some insights behind the thought process maybe of that kind of composition?
그 두 번째 질문으로 넘어가면요, 이제 그 첫 번째 경기에서 그 발라를 픽하고 더블 서포트를 진행을 했는데, 그 웨스턴 커뮤니티 같은 경우에서는 이것이 약간 좀 진한 메타라고 생각을 하고 먹히지 않을 거라고 생각했어요. 그리고 실제로 경기가 좋지 않았고요. 그 더블 서포트 발라를 픽한 이유가 있나요?
일단 제가 발라에 좀 자신감이 있긴 했었고, 그리고 약간 저만 잘하면 되는 조합인데 제가 좀 실수를 많이 했던 것 같아요. 그래서 좀 아쉽게 진 것 같아요.
For me, I'm fully confident to play the Bala. So if I play the well Bala, so we think we are going to win the game. But I had some mistakes, so that's why we lose the game.
You know, humble as always there, SC. And then next up, we know after that victory, you guys are going to be going up against KSV Black tomorrow. After the performance that they had today, I feel like we're all sitting here going like, how strong are they? What are you guys' confidence levels and thoughts about that match?
이제 내일 KS 블랙을 상대하게 되는데요. KS 블랙이 오늘 그 템페스트를 상대로 상당히 좋은 경기력을 보여줬어요. 내일 KS 블랙을 상대하는 데 있어서 어떤 마음가짐이라던가 혹시 자신 있으신가요?
템페스트랑 블랙을 하는 거 봤는데 좀 둘 다 많이 잘하더라고요. 근데 제가 해외대회 다니면서 지금이 좀 많이 못하는 때인 것 같아요. 그래서 제가 정신을 좀 잘 차리면은 할만할 것 같아요.
So we watched the game, Tempest vs KS Black, and I think the both teams are quite great. But at this moment, I'm not very good at compared to the other events. So if I play well, so you're gonna show some our good performance.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, and congratulations on the victory here today. That is going to wrap up BlossoM versus Ballisitx, but we are not done here with the Eastern Clash. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we have more Heroes competitive action.